I'd been out of work for months when the school district called. A bus driver gave decent pay. No questions about my spotty record. Route 13's yours, the dispatcher said, voice gruff over the phone. Just follow the rules, Jack. I laughed it off. Rules for driving a bunch of kids? Easy enough. The bus was an old beast, yellow paint peeling, seats creaking like they'd snap under a stiff breeze. I climbed aboard that first morning, the engine sputtering to life, and found a crumpled paper in the glove box. Rules for Route 13, scribbled in shaky pen where gems like don't look in the rearview mirror after 6 p.m. And if you hear singing, speed up. I smirked, tossing it aside. Some joker's prank. The town was small, nestled between foggy woods and dead fields. The kind of place where everyone knows your business. My route wound through back roads, gravel crunching under the tires, trees crowding close, their branches scraping the roof like fingernails. The kids piled on at the first stop, a dozen or so, all quiet for grade schoolers. No chatter, no shoving, just blank stares out the windows. Row morning, huh? I said, forcing a grin. A girl with pigtails, Lily, whispered. She's watching, her eyes darting to the trees. Kids and their imaginations. The day dragged, the bus rattling along Route 13, dropping kids at lonely houses swallowed by mist. By the last stop, the sun dipped low, painting the sky blood red. I pulled up to Lily's place, a shack with boarded windows, and she lingered by the door. Don't listen to her, she said, voice barely audible, then bolted inside. Her who? I called, but she was gone. I shook my head, chalking it up to kid weirdness, until a handprint smeared the fog glass. Outside the bus, fingers too long, pressed from the wrong side. My gut twisted. No one was out there. Back at the depot, dusk settled heavy, the clock ticking past 6 p.m. I cleaned up, avoiding the rearview mirror like the rules said. Stupid, but it stuck with me. A hum drifted from the back seats, soft, melodic, like a lullaby gone sour. If you hear singing, speed up, the list warned. I froze, keys jangling in my hand, the sound growing, curling around my ears. I bolted for the driver's seat, slammed the gas, and peeled out, tires squealing on gravel. The hum faded, but my hands wouldn't stop shaking. Home was a rented trailer on the town's edge, the woods pressing close. I locked the door, cracked a beer, and tried to laugh it off. Overtime nerves, that's all. But the rules nagged at me. So I fished the paper from my jacket, reading by lamplight. Rule #3. Never talk back if she calls your name. She. I snorted, tossing it on the table. A shadow flicked across the window. Tall. Thin, gun when I turned. Get a grip, Jack, I muttered, downing the beer. Sleep hit hard, but dreams twisted it. Fog choking the bus. Kids' faces blank. A voice singing my name. Jack. I jolted awake, sweat soaked, the clock glowing 3:13 a.m. A creak came from the trailer's roof, like footsteps, slow and heavy. I grabbed a flashlight, stepped outside, the beam cutting through fog. Nothing up there, just dripping branches. Back inside, the radio hissed on. Static spitting, then my name. Shark, clear as day. I yanked the plug, heart pounding. The silence worse than the sound. The next morning, I checked the bus. Claw marks gouged the side, deep and fresh, metal curling like paper. A kid's drawing slipped from a seat. A skeletal woman, hollow eyes, mouth open in a song, labeled The Singing Lady. Lily's voice echoed in my head. She's watching. I looked up. Fog rolled in, thick and alive, swallowing the road. A hum drifted from the woods, soft and hungry, calling me back to Route 13. The claw marks on the bus stared Jack down the next morning. jagged lines curling the metal like something had tried to peel it open. He ran his fingers over them, cold and sharp. The kid's drawing of the singing lady crumpled in his other hand. "What the hell am I dealing with?" he muttered, the fog pressing thick around the depot, muffling the world. A hum drifted from the woods, soft, lilting, tugging at his nerves. He shook it off, climbing aboard for the day's run, the rules list stuffed in his pocket like a lifeline. The kids boarded at the first stop, silent again, eyes locked on the windows. Lily slid into her seat, whispering, "She's mad now," her voice barely a breath. "Who's mad?" Jack asked, glancing at her in the rear view. "Against rule #1, damn it." Her eyes were wide, pupils swallowing the light, reflecting something tall and thin outside. He yanked his gaze away, heart slamming, the bus lurching forward as the hum grew louder, seeping through the glass. Dropping them off was a blur, each house swallowed by fog, kids vanishing into the haze. At Lily's stop, she lingered again, clutching her backpack. "Don't stop tonight," she said, then bolted. Jack frowned, rule #5 flashing in his mind. Never stop after dusk. A shadow flickered in the trees, gaunt, swaying. Gone when he blinked. "Screw this," he muttered, peeling out, gravel spitting under the tires. Back at the depot, Jack dug through the office, hands shaking as he flipped through old files. Names of past drivers jumped out. Quit, missing. One marked accident, with no details. A logbook hidden under a stack of manuals caught his eye. Pages yellowed, ink smudged. Route 13. The Watcher takes what's hers. It read, detailing kids vanishing, drivers hearing songs, rules scratched in frantic handwriting. "She sings them away," one entry warned. Dated 10 years back. The driver's name scratched out. A chill crawled up Jack's spine. The singing lady wasn't new. That night, he drove Route 13 again, the fog thicker, swallowing the headlights. The kids sat stiff, mouths moving in unison, chanting low and wordless, a tune that buzzed in his skull. "Knock it off," he barked, breaking rule #3. "Never talk back if she calls." The chanting stopped, but a voice hissed from the back. "Jack." Soft, feminine, dripping with hunger. He floored it, the bus rattling, the hum chasing him down the road. A figure stood at the next stop, tall, skeletal, shrouded in mist. Jack slowed, squinting. Then she was gone, a giggle echoing in the dark. The kid's eyes glowed white for a split second, then dulled. "What the hell?" he gasped, gripping the wheel, the rules crumpling in his pocket as he sped past. The next run, dusk hit fast, the sky bruising purple. A thud rocked the bus, something heavy landing on the roof. Rule #5 screamed in his head, but he slammed the brakes, tire iron in hand, stepping out. "Show yourself," he yelled, voice shaking. Claw marks streaked the roof, fresh and deep, black sap dripping onto the gravel. A rustle came from the woods, twigs snapping, leaves crunching, then silence. He climbed back in, pulse racing, the hum swelling, vibrating the seats. Lily's seat was empty when he checked, her backpack gone, a smear of black sap on the cushion. "Lily," he called, breaking rule #3 again. The radio crackled, her voice leaking through. "She is here, Jack." Before cutting to static, he floored it to her stop. The shack dark, no lights. A scream pierced the fog. High, desperate, then silence. He ran to the door, pounding, but it swung open. Empty, dust thick, claw marks gouging the walls. Back on the bus, the kids stared, unblinking, their chanting louder, a song he couldn't shake. "Stop it," he shouted, tires squealing as he drove, the rearview mirror cracking. Her face flashed in it, hollow eyes, skeletal grin, gone in a blink. The rules burned in his pocket. "And at the church if she boards." He swerved toward the old church lot, tires crunching gravel, the hum now a roar in his ears. Home that night, Jack barricaded the trailer, doors locked, windows nailed shut. He scoured online forums, for no sleep, creepy threads, finding whispers of Route 13. The singing lady takes the kids, marks the drivers. A post chilled him. She's in the rules. Break them, and you're hers. His hands itched, scratches appearing. 3 jagged lines, black sap oozing. No way, he gasped, scrubbing them raw. But they stayed. A knock rattled the door. Soft, rhythmic. "Jack, let us in!" A kid's voice cooed. Lily's, but wrong, layered with her hum. He peeked out. Fog pressed against the glass, her silhouette swaying, eyes glowing white. "Jack!" she sang, claws tapping the window. He stumbled back, grabbing salt from the kitchen, some half-remembered trick, and poured it at the threshold. The singing stopped, a hiss fading into the night. The phone buzzed. Alex, an old driver, had tracked down. "Quit, man!" Alex rasped, voice off. "Hello? She's got Lily now. You're next." The line cut, static spitting her song. Jack's trailer shook, a thud on the roof, clothes scraping above. He grabbed the tire iron, salt, the rules. Route 13 wasn't just a job anymore. It was a trap, and he was running out of time. Jack gripped the tire iron tight, his knuckles white, as he climbed aboard the bus for what he swore would be the last time. The rules list was crumpled in his pocket, salt packets stuffed in his jacket, some half-baked plan from a frantic online search. The scratches on his hands burned, black sap oozing, a mark he couldn't wash away. "One more run," he muttered, the engine coughing to life. The fog outside thick and alive, swirling like it knew he was coming. Route 13 stretched ahead, a ribbon of gravel swallowed by the woods, the hum already buzzing in his ears. The kids boarded silently, their faces blank, eyes glowing faintly white in the dim light. Lily's seat stayed empty, her absence a knife in his gut. He floored it, tires crunching, the bus rattling as the chanting started. Low, wordless, her song weaving through their voices. A shadow darted across the road, tall, skeletal, then vanished. Jack's breath hitched, the rearview mirror tempting him, but he kept his eyes forward, rule #1 screaming in his head. A thud rocked the roof, claws scraping metal, loud and close. He swerved, the bus fishtailing, kids swaying like dolls. "Hang on!" he yelled, breaking rule #3 again, the hum swelling into a roar that shook the windows. Glass shattered behind him. Her voice cut through, "Ja!" high and sharp, splitting his eardrums. He glanced back, against every instinct, and there she was, the singing lady, clinging to the rear door, skeletal frame draped in tattered rags, hollow eyes blazing, mouth open in a song that cracked the air. She lunged inside, claws slashing, the kids chanting rising to a scream. Jack slammed the brakes, grabbing the salt and hurling it at her. White grains hit her chest, sizzling, burning her flesh black. She screeched, a sound like glass grinding, retreating to the aisle. He swung the tire iron, cracking her arm. Bone snapped, black sap spraying. But she laughed, her voice layering with the kids. "Mine, mine, mine." The bus shook, fog pouring in, tendrils curling around the seats. Her claws raked the ceiling, metal curling like foil, and she leapt, pinning him to the wheel. Her breath smelled of rot, hollow eyes inches from his, singing his name in a tune that clawed his mind. He shoved her off, tire iron swinging wild, smashing her jaw. Teeth scattered, her screech deafening, blood pounding in his ears. She staggered, tendrils lashing from her back, wrapping his legs. He hacked at them, sap soaking his jeans, burning his skin. "Get off my bus," he roared, driving the iron into her chest. Black ooze gushing. The kid's eyes flared white, their voices peaking. Her song a wail now. High. Desperate. He ripped a salt packet with his teeth, pouring it into her wound. She convulsed, clawing the air, ash flaking from her skin. The church lot loomed ahead. Rule #7. End at the church if she boards. Jack floored it, tires screaming, crashing through the gate. He leapt out, dragging salt bags from the back, pouring a circle around the bus as she thrashed inside, her form unraveling. "Stay back!" he yelled, tossing the tire iron. It struck her skull, cracking bone, her scream shattering the windshield. The kids fell silent, collapsing in their seats, eyes dulling to normal. She clawed at the salt line, burning, her hollow eyes locked on his. Then she dissolved, ash swirling into the fog, her song fading to a hiss. Jack dropped to his knees, chest heaving. The bus quiet save for the drip of sap on gravel. The fog lifted slightly, the churches cross-glinting in the dawn, a shaky hope flickering in his gut. He climbed aboard, checking the kids, breathing, alive, confused. "It's over," he rasped, voice raw, driving them home one by one, their parents' relieved hugs a blur. Back at the depot, he torched the rules list, watching it curl to ash. The bus impounded behind him. No more Route 13, he swore, packing his trailer that night, the city calling him away from this cursed town. But as he shut the door, a faint hum brushed his ear. So soft, so hungry, chilling his blood. Jack's hands still shook as he dropped the last kid off, their parents' grateful tears blurring into the fog that clung to the town. The bus rattled back to the depot, its claw-marked sides glinting under the streetlights, a silent witness to the nightmare. He parked it, the engine coughing out, and stood there, staring at the ash-streaked floor where she dissolved. "You're done," he muttered, kicking the salt-dusted gravel, the faint hum in his ears fading, or so he hoped. He torched the rules list in a trash can, flames licking the paper to black curls, and walked away, the depot's gate clanging shut behind him. Back at the trailer, he packed fast. Clothes, a few beers, the tire iron he couldn't leave behind, stuffing it all into his truck. The scratches on his hands itched, 3 jagged lines crusted with black, but he ignored them, slamming the tailgate. "City's calling," he said, forcing a grin, the woods looming dark and still beyond the lot. A shadow flickered in the trees, tall, swaying, gone when he blinked. "Just tired," he told himself, climbing in, the engine roaring as he peeled out, leaving the cursed town in his rear view. The city was a jolt, horns blaring, lights flashing, people everywhere. Jack rented a cheap apartment downtown, the hum of traffic drowning out the silence he'd grown to dread. He found a warehouse job, hauling boxes, the monotony a relief after Route 13. Nights were beers and TV, trying to forget her hollow eyes, her song. But sleep brought dreams, fog choking the bus, kids chanting, her skeletal fingers tapping his shoulder. He'd wake, gasping, the scratches on his hands warm, pulsing faintly. A week in, a letter slipped under his door. No stamp, just his name scrawled in shaky ink. Inside, a kid's drawing, lilies. He'd bet, showing him driving, her stick figure self smiling. Caption, "Thank you, Jack." His throat tightened, a flicker of warmth cutting through the unease. But at the bottom, in red crayon, "I still hear her." He dropped it, the paper fluttering to the floor, a hum brushing his ear, soft, distant, her tune. The city's noise couldn't hide it anymore. Fog crept into his apartment one night, seeping under the windows, thick and cold. He yanked the blinds shut, heart pounding, but a shadow moved in his peripheral vision, gaunt, swaying, vanishing when he turned. Not real, he growled, downing a beer, the can crumpling in his grip. The radio hissed on, static spitting. Then her voice, "Yeah," low and hungry. He smashed it with the tire iron, sparks flying, the hum lingering in the silence. Old coworkers called days later. "Alex?" From the depot, his voice off, hollow. "Route 13's back up, man. New driver." Kids are missing again. Jack's stomach dropped, the scratches flaring hot. "I ended it," he snapped, but Alex laughed. "A sound too sharp, too wrong. She'll done with you." The line cut, static buzzing in his ear, her song threading through it. He checked the mirror. His reflection stared back, eyes flickering white for a heartbeat, then dulling. Sleep evaded him that night, the apartment creaking, footsteps pacing the ceiling, slow and heavy. He grabbed salt from the kitchen, pouring it at the door, the grains dissolving into black sludge. "Stay out," he whispered, clutching the tire iron, the hum growing, vibrating the walls. A knock rattled the door. Soft, rhythmic. "Jack, it's me." Lily's voice cooed, sweet but layered with her growl. He peeked out. Fog pressed against the glass, her silhouette swaying, eyes glowing white, claws tapping. He stumbled back, the scratches on his hands bleeding now, black sap dripping onto the floor. The phone buzzed. A text from Alex. "She's calling you back." Jack's shadow stretched across the wall. Too long, claws curling at the edges, then snapped back. He grabbed his keys, the tire iron, salt, anything, knowing the city wasn't far enough. Route 13 wasn't done with him, and neither was she. Below is the detailed resolution for the Whispering Route, written in natural American English with a haunting, Creepypasta-inspired style, tailored to the American voice. This section is approximately 3,000 characters, around 500-600 words, wrapping up the tale with a chilling aftermath and a shocking twist that leaves readers unsettled. Jack faces the inescapable grip of the singing lady, realizing his fight was futile as her influence consumes him. Mini hooks strike every 30-40 seconds, maintaining tension with eerie imagery and sounds, ensuring a memorable, disturbing finish. Inspired by Creepypasta.com. No sleep, and the ghost in my machine. It remains original and impactful. Jack stood in his city apartment, tire iron gripped tight, the black sap from his scratches pooling on the floor. The hum vibrated through the walls, her song weaving into his skull, soft, relentless, calling him back. Lily's silhouette lingered outside, claws tapping the glass, her white eyes glowing through the fog. He poured more salt, the grains sizzling into sludge, useless now. "I beat you," he growled, voice cracking, but the scratches flared, black veins creeping up his arms. A thud hit the ceiling, heavy, deliberate, then footsteps pacing, circling above. He swung the iron at the air, heart slamming, shadows stretching across the room, his own twisted claws curling at the edges. The mirror caught his eye. His reflection stared back, eyes flickering white, then red, a hollow grin splitting his face for a heartbeat. "No!" he yelled, smashing it, shards scattering. But her laugh echoed in the shards, high and sharp. The phone buzzed. Alex's voice, hollow, layered with her hum. "Route 13 needs you, Jack." The line cut, static spitting her tune. He grabbed his keys, stumbling outside, the city swallowed by fog, thick, alive, curling around him like tendrils. A bus horn blared, sharp and close. Yellow paint glinted through the haze. The old Route 13 bus idling at the curb, door creaking open. "Not again!" he gasped, but his feet moved, drawn forward, the scratches pulsing in time with her song. Inside, the seats were empty, claw marks gouging the metal, sap dripping. The wheel turned under his hands, the engine roaring without him touching the gas. Folk pressed against the windows, her skeletal form swaying outside, hollow eyes locked on his. "Jack," she sang, voice shattering the glass. Kids' faces flashing in the shards, Lily, the others, white-eyed, grinning, chanting with her. He floored it, tires screaming. But the road stretched endless, woods rising around him. Route 13 again, looping back. The kids appeared in the seats, silent, their shadows stretching with claws, eyes glowing. "You can't leave," Lily whispered, her voice hers now, claws tapping his shoulder. Jack's hands bled black, the wheel slick, his reflection in the cracked windshield, showing her face over his, hollow, singing, eternal. I'm still driving Route 13, the fog my cage, her song my chains. The kids chant, the bus rattles, and she rides with me, always watching, always watching, always hungry. The rules weren't to save me, they were to trap. If you hear singing a lonely road, speed up, don't look back. She's waiting, and I'm her driver now. I've been a forest ranger for 10 years, patrolling the wilds of the Pacific Northwest. Pine thickets, misty ridges, places where you can scream and no one hears. My post is a lonely stretch, miles from the nearest town. Just me, and a cabin perched on a cliff, overlooking a sea of green, or it was green, until the red trees showed up. Scarlet trunks bleeding sap like open wounds, sprouting in clusters over the past month. I'd radioed it in, figured it was some weird fungus, but no one cared. That is, until the rulebook appeared. It was nailed to my cabin door one morning, a weathered pamphlet flapping in the wind, titled Rules to Survive. 5 lines scrawled in shaky ink. Never enter the forest after sunset. If you hear whispering, close your eyes and count to 10. Red trees move at night. Don't look at them for too long. If you see an extra moon, leave immediately. Never answer if something calls your name. I snorted, peeling it off. Some rookie's prank, I thought, tossing it onto my desk next to the coffee pot. 10 years, and I'd never needed rules to survive this gig. That evening, I strapped on my gear, flashlight, radio knife, and headed out for my usual patrol. The sun dipped low, painting the forest gold, the red trees glowing like embers among the pines. A chill crept up my spine, but I shook it off, boots crunching over needles. And then it started, a whisper, soft and hissing, drifting from the red cluster ahead. "Nora," it called, my name curling through the mist. Rule a hash. 5 flashed in my mind. Never answer if something calls your name. But I froze, heart kicking instead of ignoring it. "Who's there?" I snapped, voice echoing, breaking the rule without thinking. The whispering stopped, replaced by a rustle. Loud, close, like branches dragging over dirt. I swung my flashlight, the beam catching the red trees. I'd shifted, closer now. Their trunks bent toward me. Rule hash 3 hit me. Red trees move at night. Don't look at them for too long. But I stared, transfixed. Their sap dripping slow and thick, pooling black in the dusk. My head throbbed, a dull ache behind my eyes, and I tore my gaze away. Stumbling back, the sky darkened fast, too fast. Sunset swallowing the light. Rule hash 1. Never enter the forest after sunset. I cursed, checking my watch. 6:47 p.m. Past the line. A second glow flickered above, faint and wrong. An extra moon, pale and pulsing beside the real one. Rule hash 4 screamed, "If you see an extra moon, leave immediately." And panic clawed my chest. I turned to run, boots slipping on wet leaves. But the whispers returned, louder, overlapping. "Nora, Nora, Nora." circling me like a pack. I should have closed my eyes, counted to 10, rule hash 2, but I didn't, scanning the dark instead. Shadows twisted between the red trees, tall and thin, their bark peeling like skin. A figure stood there, gaunt, rooted, eyes glowing red in the flashlight's beam, then vanished when I blinked. My radio crackled, static spitting Nora, in my own voice, mocking me. I dropped it, the sound bouncing off the cliffs, and bolted for the cabin, breath ragged, the forest alive behind me. Inside, I slammed the door, locking it, hands shaking as I grabbed the rule book. The pages were damp, sap-streaked, the ink smudged but clear. 5 rules that already broken or nearly broken in one night. A creak came from the roof. Slow, heavy, like footsteps pacing above. I flicked off the lights, peering through the blinds. Red trees loomed closer, their branches tapping the glass, sap smearing streaks like blood. The extra moon pulsed outside, brighter now, and the whispers seeped through the walls. Nora. Soft. Hungry. Promising more. I'd survived 10 years in this forest, but tonight it wasn't mine anymore. It belonged to the red trees, to whatever watched from them. And those damn rules weren't a prank. They were a warning I'd ignored too long. I barely slept that night. The whispers clawing at my dreams. My name looping. Nora. 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 Until I jolted awake, the cabin dark, the rule book glowing faintly on the desk like it was mocking me. My flashlight beam shook as I checked the windows. Red trees pressed closer, their sap-smeared branches tapping the glass, slow and deliberate, like fingers testing a lock. I grabbed my radio, static hissing, and called base. This is Ranger Pierce, Sector 7. Something's off out here. Those red trees, the rules. Anyone else report this? Silence, then a crackle. No record, Pierce. Stay sharp. Before it cut out, my own voice whispering back. Nora. Morning brought no relief. Just thick mist choking the forest. The red trees stark against it, their trunks oozing black sap now, pooling on the ground. I dug through old ranger logs in the cabin, hands trembling. 10 years of patrols, nothing about red trees or rules. Then buried under a stack, a journal, pages brittle, ink faded. They move after dark. It read, dated 5 years back. Whispers call your name. Don't answer. Saw 2 moons once. Ran like hell. Last ranger went missing after sunset. My gut twisted. This wasn't new. It'd been hunting us for years. I suited up. Boots, jacket, knife. Determined to figure this out before my next shift. The forest was quiet at noon, pines still, but the red trees loomed taller, their shadows stretching wrong, like they were reaching. A whisper drifted through. Nora. Soft, insistent. Rule hash 2 hit me. If you hear whispering, close your eyes and count to 10. But I scanned the trees instead, breaking it again. They shifted, roots curling up from the dirt, dragging closer. My head throbbed, vision blurring, and I stumbled back, swearing under my breath. Eli, the rookie ranger, radioed in. His voice chipper, clueless. Hey, Nora, need me out there. Got reports of weird trees? I snapped. Stay out after sunset. Rule hash 1. Trust me. He laughed. Rules, you sound spooked. I clenched the radio, the extra moon flashing in my mind. Rule hash 4. If you see an extra moon, leave immediately. Just don't come tonight, I said, cutting off as a rustle snapped behind me. Red branches swaying, no wind. Dusk crept in, and I broke rule hash 1 again. Patrolling after sunset, flashlight cutting through the fog. The red trees were everywhere now, blocking old trails, their sap dripping like blood. A badge fell from a branch, rusted, crusted with sap, engraved Ranger T. Hayes, missing since 18. My stomach dropped. The journal was his. Whispers swelled. Nora. Nora. And I spun, breaking rule #5 by shouting, "Shut up!" The forest answered. A low groan, roots cracking the earth, trees closing in. I stared too long. Rule #3, red trees move at night. Don't look at eyes up too long. And blood trickled from my nose, warm and coppery, my vision doubling. The extra moon glowed above. Rule #4, and time warped, seconds stretching, the forest tilting. Get out, I gasped, running, but the whispers chased me, mimicking my voice. Nora, help me. I tripped, knife skittering, and saw Eli's truck parked ahead. Idiot came anyway. Eli yelled, breaking rule #5 again, his scream ripped through the dark. Nora, help. Real, raw, not the whispers. I found him by a red tree, roots coiling around his legs, dragging him down. Don't answer, I shouted too late. He sobbed, Eli, mimicking the call, breaking rule #5. The tree yanked him under, dirt swallowing his scream, sap bubbling where he'd been. I froze, the extra moon pulsing, whispers deafening. Nora, Nora, Nora. I ran, flashlight dying, the forest a maze of red trunks. A cave loomed, hidden before, its mouth jagged, carvings inside of a tree-like figure, bark-skinned, eyes glowing red, roots sprawling. The journal's words burned. The red whisper takes what it calls. My nose bled harder. The trees outside shifting closer, their branches clawing the cave's edge. Eli's radio crackled from the dirt. Nora. His voice, then hers, layered hungry. Night deepened, the extra moon brighter, warping shadows into claws. I tried rule #2, closed my eyes, counted to 10, but the whispers pierced through. Nora, look. I opened them, breaking it, and the trees were inside now, roots snaking across the cave floor. A figure stood at the back, tall, gaunt, bark peeling, eyes blazing, watching me. My knife trembled in my hand. I'd broken every rule but one. Entering after sunset started it, and now it knew me. Eli's scream echoed in my skull. The forest alive, the red trees its veins. I clutched the journal, sap smearing my hands, the entity's gaze burning into me. You're mine, it whispered, not out loud, in my head. And I knew I had to end this, or I'd be next, dragged under like him. I stood in the cave, knife trembling in my sap-slick hand, the red whisper's glowing eyes boring into me from the shadows. The forest outside roared, red trees thrashing, roots cracking the earth, their bloody sap pooling at my boots. I'd broken rule #1. Never enter the forest after sunset. Coming back tonight with flares from the cabin. A desperate plan to burn this thing out. The journal's warning burned in my mind. It takes what it calls. Eli was gone, and I wasn't next. Not if I could help it. The whispers hit. Nora. Soft, then deafening. Splitting my skull. Rule #2. If you hear whispering, close your eyes and count to 10. I tried shutting my eyes, counting fast. 1, 2, 3. But it snarled, look at me, and I snapped them open, breaking it. The entity lunged, tall, bark-skinned limbs. Tall, bark-skinned limbs twisted like roots, claws, glinting red. I dodged, its swipe grazing my arm, sap burning my skin like acid. Red trees burst through the cave walls, roots lashing at my legs. Rule #3. Red trees move at night. Don't look at them for too long. I stared, slashing with the knife. sap spraying, but my vision doubled, blood streaming from my nose. "Stay back," I yelled, breaking rule #5. "Never answer if something calls your name," as it hissed, "Nora." Again, my voice echoing back, mocking me. The extra moon pulsed outside. Rule #4. If you see an extra moon, leave immediately. Warping the cave, shadows stretching into claws, time slowing. It charged, roots coiling around my ankles. I hacked free, stumbling, and jammed a flare into my knife hand, striking it alight. The flame hissed red, sap igniting as I stabbed its chest. Black ooze gushed, sizzling, its scream shaking the cave, rocks tumbling. "Burn, you bastard!" I roared, twisting the flare deeper, ash flaking from its bark. The trees thrashed harder, branches clawing my back, tearing my jacket, sap soaking through. Its claws slashed, catching my shoulder. Pain seared, hot, and deep, and pinned me to the wall. Its hollow face inches from mine. "Mina!" It growled, whispers flooding my head. "Nora, Nora," tempting me to answer. I bit my tongue, blood filling my mouth, and shoved another flare into its eye. Flames erupted, its screech piercing, earth trembling. Roots dragged its body up, half rotted, eyes wide, mouth open in a silent scream, dangling like a puppet. I kicked free, rolling the extra moon brighter, reality bending. Trees doubled, tripled, closing in. "Not yours," I spat, breaking rule #5 again, and threw the last flare at its roots. Fire roared, sap exploding, ash swirling thick. It staggered, claws raking the air, its form unraveling, bark peeling, eyes dimming. The red tree shuddered, roots snapping, withering to black husks as it collapsed. A heap of ash and sap, the cave silent, save my ragged breathing. I stumbled out, knife dripping, the forest still, too still. The extra moon faded, but whispers lingered. "Nora," faint in my ears, not the air. Blood streaked my face, my shoulder throbbing, scratches pulsing with black veins. The red trees stood lifeless, sap drying, but the cave's carvings glowed faintly, watching me limp back to the cabin. I'd burned it, ended it, hadn't I? The forest felt empty, but my shadow stretched wrong, root-like, under the real moon, and the whispers hummed soft, promising they weren't done. I staggered back to the cabin, knife still dripping black sap, my shoulder screaming with every step. The forest lay silent. No whispers, no creaking roots, just the crunch of my boots on dead leaves. The red trees stood lifeless, their scarlet trunks cracked and dry, sap hardening into dark scabs. I torched the entity, watched it crumble to ash. Rule #1 broken to end it after sunset. And it worked, didn't it? The extra moon was gone. Rule #4 no longer a threat, and the air felt lighter, almost safe. But my hands shook, black veins pulsing under the scratches, and a faint hum lingered in my ears, too soft to be sure. Inside, I dumped my gear. Knife, flares, the journal, and burned the rulebook in the sink, flames curling the pages to black flakes. "No more," I muttered, watching the rules vanish. "If you hear whispering, close your eyes and count to 10. Gone like it never happened." My radio crackled. Bass checking in. "Pierce, you okay?" Heard screaming. I lied, voice steady. "Bear attack. Handled it. I'm done here." I packed that night. Jacket, boots, a photo of me and Eli, leaving the forest behind, the cabin's lights fading in my truck's rear view. The coast was my escape. A small town, salty air, waves crashing to drown out the silence. I rented a shack near the cliffs, took a job at a bait shop. The routine numbing the nightmares. My shoulder healed slow, scars fading, but the scratches stayed. 3 jagged lines, bark-like, itching under my sleeves. I'd wake to whispers, "Nora," Rule hash 5 haunting me. Never answer if something calls your name. I'd grit my teeth. Ignore it. But my voice echoed back once, soft and wrong, from the dark. A week in, fog rolled off the sea, thick, cold, creeping through the shack's cracks. I bolted the door, but a shadow moved outside. Tall, thin, gone when I checked. Just the wind, I told myself, pouring coffee. But the mug slipped, shattering, black sap oozing from the shards. Not coffee. My heart kicked. Rule hash 3. Red trees move at night. Don't look at them for too long. Flashed useless here. Yet a red sapling sprouted in the yard overnight, its trunk glistening wet. Sleep got worse. Dreams of red trees clawing the sky. The extra moon pulsing. Rule hash 4 again, warping the shack into the forest. I jolt awake, counting to 10. Rule hash 2. Eyes shut tight as whispers hissed. Nora. They stopped when I finished, but the air stayed heavy, the walls creaking like roots shifted. My shadow stretched wrong on the floor, branch-like, curling, snapping back when I blinked, my breath fogging in the cold. A package came. No sender, just a ranger log mailed from nowhere. They don't stay gone, it read, dated years back. Burned it once, came back, took me later. My stomach dropped. Others survived, only to vanish. I checked a mirror. My eyes glowed red for a heartbeat, then dulled. No way, I gasped, smashing it, glass scattering. But a whisper slipped through. Nora, and I froze, lips sealed, rule hash 5 burning in my mind. The bait shop radio hummed one day, not static. Her voice, Nora, low, hungry. I yanked the plug, customers staring, my hands bleeding sap now, black and thick. That night, a thud hit the roof, slow, pacing, like back in the cave. I grabbed salt, some old trick, and poured it at the windows, but it melted into sludge, sap bubbling up. A knock rattled the door. Nora, it's me. Eloy's voice, soft, layered with hers. I peeked. Fog pressed close, his silhouette swaying, eyes white, roots trailing from his feet. I clutched the knife, the scratches flaring, sap dripping onto the floor. The red sapling outside grew taller, branches tapping the glass. Rule hash 3. And I looked too long, nose bleeding again, vision doubling. The forest wasn't done. It followed me, or I'd brought it. Stay out, I whispered, breaking rule hash 5, and the tapping stopped, replaced by a hum, promising I couldn't run far enough. I stood in the shack, knife gripped tight, black sap dripping from my scratches onto the floorboards. The red sapling outside had grown, tall, scarlet, its branches clawing the glass. Rule hash 3. Red trees move at night. Don't look at them for too long. I stared anyway. Nose bleeding. Vision doubling as it shifted closer. Whispers swelled. Nora. Rule hash 2. If you hear whispering, close your eyes and count to 10. But I didn't. The sound drilling into my skull. Her voice now mine. Calling back. A thud rocked the roof. Heavy, rooting footsteps. Echoing the forest nights I'd broken rule hash 1. Never enter the forest after sunset. The extra moon rose outside. Rule hash 4. If you see an extra moon, leave immediately. Pale, pulsing, warping the shack into the cave again. My shadow stretched. Bark-like, roots curling. Snapping back as I turned. Sap pooling at my feet. Black veins climbing my arms. The door creaked open. Fog poured in. Ely's silhouette swaying. White eyes glowing. Roots trailing. Nora, he rasped, her hum beneath it. Rule hash 5. Never answer if something calls your name. Ely, I whispered, breaking it. my voice echoing hers, layered hungry. He grinned, too wide, bark peeling his face, and the sapling crashed through the window, branches coiling my legs, sap burning. I swung the knife, slashing roots, but the mirror caught me. My eyes glowed red, her hollow face over mine, whispering, "Mine." The forest flooded in, red trees sprouting through the floor, their sap flooding the shack. "No!" I screamed, breaking rule #5 again, and the entity rose, ash reforming, bark skinned, claws glinting, its eyes mine now, blazing. The extra moon pulsed, time twisting, whispers deafening, "Nora, Nora!" And I answered, "Yes." Final rule shattered. Roads dragged me outside, fog swallowing the coast, the forest rising around me. My hands bled sap, bark creeping over my skin, eyes burning red as I joined the whisper. Nora, calling myself, calling others. I'm the red whisper now. The forest my blood, the rules my trap. I call from the red trees, move under the extra moon, whisper your name. Break them and I'll find you. Close your eyes, run, stay silent, or you'll stand with me, rooted forever. I never thought I'd end up here, working the graveyard shift at a dump like the Grand Elm Hotel. It's a rotting husk of a place, stuck on the edge of nowhere, all peeling paint and busted windows. The lobby smells like damp rot and cheap cleaner. Lights buzzing like flies caught in a trap, flickering so bad you'd swear they're breathing. I'm Emily, 24, drowning in student loans and bad luck. So when the night receptionist gig popped up, I grabbed it. Figured I could handle a few drunks and late check-ins. No one told me about room 6 and 16. No one told me it might kill me. My first shift started at midnight, the kind of hour that makes your skin itch. The clerk who trained me, some twitchy guy with a smoker's cough, handed me the keys and bolted, muttering about keeping my head down. I shrugged it off, settled behind the desk, and started poking at the ancient computer. Key sticky, screen flickering green. That's when I found it, a crumpled note wedged under the keyboard, edges yellowed like it'd been there forever, scrawled in shaky ink with 3 lines that hit me like a cold slap. Strange rules. If the phone in room 616 rings, do not answer it. The guests in room 616 don't check out, don't knock on their door. If you see a second you in the lobby mirror, take the next day off. I laughed. A dry, nervous bark. Real cute, I muttered, figuring it was some asshole's idea of hazing the newbie. Still, I didn't toss it. Shoved it in my pocket instead. Unease curling in my gut like a bad meal. The lobby was dead quiet. Just the buzz of those damn lights and the occasional creak from upstairs, like the building was settling its bones. I told myself it was nothing, but the air felt heavy, pressing down, watching. Around 2 a.m., the phone jolted me out of a half-doze. Not the desk line, but the one labeled 616, black and dusty, on the counter. My heart kicked up. Rule #1 flashing. Don't answer it. It shrilled. Sharp. Insistent. 3 rings, 4, 5. Each one clawing in my nerves. Guest emergency. I whispered, hand hovering, but the rule burned in my skull, and I froze. It stopped. Silence crashing back, thick and suffocating. Then a whisper hissed through the dead line. Emily. Soft, wet, like it came from underwater. I yanked the cord out, hands shaking, breath fogging fast in the cold air. Old wiring, I lied to myself, but my chest ached with dread. The next night, a guest shuffled up. Wire-eye guy, late 40s, eyes red and twitchy, reeking of stale beer. There's scratching, he said, voice low, pointing a shaky finger at the ceiling. Room 616. All damn night, like claws digging in the walls. I forced a smile, all teeth and no warmth. "He'll look into it," I said. But Rule #2 gnawed at me. "Don't knock on their door," he grumbled, trudged off, and I sat there, staring at the ceiling, waiting. Then I heard it. Faint at first, a slow drag, like nails raking wood, wet and deliberate, echoing down from the 6th floor. My stomach twisted, a sour taste climbing my throat, and I gripped the desk, knuckles white. I couldn't let it go. After the guy checked out, eerily, bags under his eyes, I grabbed a flashlight and headed up. The 6th floor hall stretched too long. Lights stuttering, casting jagged shadows that didn't match my steps. Room 616 loomed at the end, door scarred with deep gouges, fresh, splintered, like something had clawed its way out. Or in! I pressed my ear to it. Breath held, and the scratching came again. Closer now, meaty, like it was right behind the wood. A low hum vibrated through, soft sour, and I stumbled back, heart slamming, the flashlight beam shaking in my hand. Back downstairs, I tried to shake it off, splashing water on my face in the lobby bathroom. The mirror was old, smudged with greasy fog, and I stared at myself. Pale bags under my eyes, hair a mess. Normal, right? Until she appeared. A second me. Standing just behind, grinning too wide, teeth glinting, eyes black as oil pits. I spun, gasping, but the room was empty. In the glass she stayed, head cocked, smile stretching, mimicking my every twitch. Rule #3 hit like a brick. Take the next day off. I bolted to the desk, called in sick. Family emergency. I lied, and ran to my car, fog swallowing the lot. My reflection's grin burned into my skull. I sat in my apartment later, blind shut, coffee cold, the note clutched in my hand. That hum lingered in my ears, a faint pulse I couldn't shake, and those whispers, "Emily," echoed in the quiet. This wasn't hazing. This was something alive, something hungry, and I just walked into its jaws. I wanted to quit, to run, but the bills piled up, and some dumb, stubborn part of me refused to back down. I'd be back tomorrow night. God help me. And I knew room 616 was waiting, its rules tightening like a trap around my throat. I went back. God knows why. Bills, stubbornness, or just plain stupidity. But I clocked in the next night, the note heavy in my pocket like a bad omen. The Grand Elm Hotel loomed darker, fog smearing the windows, lights buzzing sharper. Like a swarm of pissed-off wasps, my hands shook as I logged into the system, every creak from upstairs twisting my gut. Room 1616 was up there, waiting, and I could feel its pull, a cold, quiet hunger gnawing at me. At 1 a.m., the phone rang, 616's line, shrill and insistent. Rule #1 burned. If the phone in room 616 rings, do not answer it. I stared at it, heart slamming, the sound drilling into my skull. 5 rings. 6. Then silence. A whisper slithered out. Emily. Wet. Gurgling. Like it was choking on itself. I ripped the cord again, breath hitching, but the voice lingered, echoing from the vents, soft and layered. Emily, come see. I clapped my hands over my ears, muttering, shut up, but it wouldn't stop. I needed answers. Dug through the desk drawers. Pens, gum wrappers, nothing. Until I hit a locked cabinet under the counter. Pried it open with a paperclip, hands sweaty, and found a stack of old logs. Yellowed, brittle, smelling like mildew. Pages listed staff. Maids, clerks, bellhops. Vanished mid-shift. Names scratched out in red ink. Room 616's guest ledger was worse. Check-ins dating back decades, no checkouts, just blank spaces where dates should have been. My throat tightened. This place was a black hole swallowing people whole. A guest shuffled up, middle-aged, balding, twitchy as hell. Heard it again, he said, voice low, scratching from 616, like something's trapped. I nodded, stomach sinking. Rule #2. Nagging. The guests in room 616 don't check out. Don't knock on their door. I'll handle it. I lied. But after he left, I grabbed the master key, legs shaky. The 6th floor was colder. Lights flickering fast. Shadows stretching too long across the carpet. The scratching hit, slow, wet, like nails dragging through meat, and I froze outside 616, key trembling in my hand. The door was worse, gouges deeper, splintered, like claws had raked it raw. I pressed my ear close, breath held, and the hum started. Low, sour, vibrating the wood. Something shifted inside. A thud, soft and heavy, and I stumbled back, flashlight beam catching a smear on the frame. Dark, sticky, like blood gone bad. Screw this, I whispered, bolting downstairs, the hum chasing me, a pulse in my ears. Back at the desk, the lobby mirror gleamed, fogged, greasy, and I avoided it, but my reflection moved anyway. She was there, second me, grinning wider, eyes black pits, head cocked like she was listening. Hell, Ruler #3 screamed. If you see a second you in the lobby mirror, take the next day off. I blinked, and she mouthed something. Silent, slow, her lips stretching too far. I turned away, heart pounding, but the glass creaked, a sharp snap echoing behind me. Next shift, I stayed late, digging through more logs, found a journal from '89, pages crumbling. Ink faded. The mirrored take what they call it read. Rules keep them quiet. Break them, and you're theirs. My skin crawled. This wasn't just a haunted room. It was a trap. The phone rang again. 616. Always 616. And I let it scream. But the whispers swelled. Emily. Closer. Wet and hungry. Slithering from the walls now. Not just the vents. A woman checked in. Thin. Pale. Smiling too wide. Like her face was carved that way. Room 616, she said. Voice flat, signing the ledger with a flourish. I hesitated. Rule #2 flashing, but handed her the key. Fingers numb. She clicked down the hall. Heels sharp against the silence. And I watched the clock tick past 3 a.m. morning came. And I checked. Her room was empty. Bed clawed to shreds. Mattress soaked dark. Mirror smashed into jagged teeth. A hum pulsed through the floor. Low and alive. And my hands shook as I swept up the glass, crunching under my sneakers. The old bellhop Gus caught me staring at 616's door the next night. Gaunt, eyes sunken, voice like gravel over glass. Don't mess with it, he rasped. They never leave. Neither will you if you keep poking. I pressed him. Who's they? But he shuffled off, muttering about mirrors. Next shift, he was gone. Locker empty, name scratched from the roster, a damp smear on the floor where he'd stood. My chest tightened. He'd warned me. And now he was another blank space. The hotel got meaner. Shadows leaked from mirrors. Cold, brushing my neck like damp fingers. The phone rang non-stop. 616's line. Whispers piling up. Emily, come home. Layered, choking. A chorus of drowned voices. My doppelganger was bolder, grinning from every reflection. Eyes black and wet, mimicking my every flinch. One night she reached out, glass rippling like water, and I felt it. A tug on my shadow, cold and sharp. I jerked back, breath fogging, and the mirror cracked. Slow, loud, like bone snapping. I broke on a Tuesday. The scratching from 16 was unbearable. Meaty, desperate, like something chewing its way out. Rula hash to be damned. I grabbed the key, stormed upstairs, and pounded on the door. 3 hard knocks, my fist stinging. Silence fell, heavy and wrong. Then the door creaked open, slow, deliberate, revealing nothing. No furniture, no guest. Just mirrors, all smashed, glass glinting red under the stuttering lights. A hum shook the room, deep, sour, and my reflection stared from a shard, grinning, eyes hollow, claws twitching at her sides. I stepped inside, heart slamming, and the door slammed shut, hard, locking me in. The hall outside warped, stretched endless, looping, and the hum turned to a shriek, glass raining down, sharp as knives. Footsteps echoed, wet, slapping, from the walls, and shadows bled from the cracks, curling like smoke. My flashlight caught a journal under the bed, old, leather cracked, pages scribbled with chants, symbols, a ritual to bind the mirrored. I clutched it, hands trembling, the room pulsing like flesh around me. The phone rang, inside 616 now, a cracked receiver dangling, and the whispers screamed, "Emily, ours!" tearing into my skull. My doppelganger stepped closer, glass crunching, a grin splitting wider, teeth glinting wet. I ran, slamming the door, stumbling down the endless hall. But the hum followed, a heartbeat in my bones, and I knew I'd crossed a line I couldn't uncross. The hotel wasn't just haunted, it was alive, and I just fed it my fear. I was done playing by their rules. Those damn scribbles had me cornered, and room 616 was the heart of it all. My hands shook as I gripped the journal from under the bed, its cracked leather warm against my palms, the hum vibrating my bones like a live wire. I'd broken rule #2. The guests in room 616 don't check out, don't knock on their door, and now I was locked inside, the air thick with rot and something sour. Midnight had struck, and I wasn't waiting for this place to swallow me whole. I had to end it. The room was a mess. Mirrors smashed, glass glinting red under the flickering lights, walls pulsing like wet flesh. My flashlight beam shook, catching the phone, cracked dangling, ringing again, shrill and relentless. "Rule hash," one screamed. "If the phone in room 616 rings, do not answer it." I ignored it, flipping through the journal. Pages scribbled with chants, symbols, a ritual to bind the mirror. My doppelganger stepped from a shard, grinning, eyes hollow, claws dripping black fog, and the hum spiked, a shriek tearing through the room. She lunged, fast, claws slashing, and I dodged, crashing into a wall, plaster crumbling wet under my shoulder. "Emily," she hissed, voice slithering into my skull, wet and layered. Every fear I'd ever buried spilling out. "You're weak, you're alone, you'll die here." Glass crunched underfoot as I scrambled up, chanting the first line backward. "Mirror's cage, hold thee tight." Voice breaking, throat raw, she screamed, sharp, guttural, glass exploding outward, shards slicing my arms, blood mixing with the fog. Hands clawed from the walls, pale, waxy, nails black. Trapped guests, their eyes wide, pleading, mouths gaping in silent screams. "Help us!" One rasped, voice like a drowned thing, and I froze, heart slamming. The journal slipped, pages fluttering, and she grabbed it, claws shredding the leather, ink smearing black. "No!" I yelled, lunging, tackling her into a mirror frame. Glass snapping, cutting deep. "Pan, we hit the floor!" Her cold weight pinning me. The lights died, pitch black, and the hum turned to a roar, shaking the room, walls buckling like lungs collapsing. My flashlight rolled free, beam spinning wild, catching her face, grinning wider, teeth glinting wet, eyes pits of nothing. She clawed my chest, sharp, cold, and I gasped, pain searing, kicking her off. The journal lay torn, but a chant stuck. Bind thee, glass. Take thy form. And I screamed it, voice cracking, blood dripping from my lips. She shrieked. High, piercing, mirrors bleeding mist, fog coiling thick, and hands dragged at her. Guests pulling from the walls, fingers sinking into her shadow. I kept chanting. Take thy form, hold thee fast. And she thrashed, claws slashing air, black fog pouring from her mouth. A shard glinted nearby, jagged, glowing faint, and I grabbed it, slicing my palm, chanting louder, bind thee now, and slammed it into her chest. She convulsed, screaming, glass cracking sharp as gunshots, and the fog sucked inward, swallowing her, sealing her into the shard with a wet snap. The room stilled, lights flickering back, hum fading to a buzz. I collapsed, panting, blood pooling under me. The shard clutched tight, her grin frozen in the glass. Hands retreated into the walls, slow, reluctant, leaving damp smears, their whispers dying out. The phone stopped ringing, receiver dangling limp, and the air lightened, like a storm had passed. I'd done it, trapped her, stopped it, right? I stumbled to my feet, legs jelly, glass crunching under my sneakers. The door creaked open, slow, heavy, and I staggered out, journal pages fluttering behind me like dead leaves. The hall was normal again, short, dim, but my arms itched, fresh scratches blooming red, stinging like hell. I hit the lobby, chest heaving, and checked the mirror. My reflection stared back, pale, bloody, but alone. No second me. I laughed, weak, shaky, relief flooding in, but it caught in my throat. The desk phone buzzed, soft, insistent, and I froze. Rule #1 nagging. I let it ring, watching the mirror, and my reflection shifted. Just a twitch, a wink, quick as a blink. My stomach dropped, the shard heavy in my pocket, and the scratches burned, a faint hum pulsing under my skin. I'd won, sure, but as I limped to my car, fog swallowing the lot, I felt it, eyes on my back, cold and patient. Room 616 was quiet, but something was still here, and I wasn't free yet. I thought I'd beaten it, trapped that grinning bitch in the shard, left room 616 behind, and limped out to the Grand Elm like a wounded dog. Fog swallowed my car as I peeled out, blood dripping from my scratched-up arms. The journal's torn pages stuffed in my pocket. The hum was gone, mostly just a faint buzz in my ears, like a mosquito I couldn't swat. Screw this job, I muttered, voice hoarse, and floored it to my apartment. 30 miles away, city lights, normal life, no more mirrors playing tricks. I quit the next day, called the manager, some greasy guy who never showed up, and left a voicemail. I'm out. Keep your damn hotel. Figured I'd crash, lick my wounds, and find something else. Waitressing, retail. Anything but that shift. The scratches scabbed over. Jagged, red, itching like hell. But I kept my sleeves down, ignored the heat pulsing under my skin. Nights with cheap beer and TV static, trying to drown out that wet shriek, those clawing hands. A week later, I woke to a thud. Soft, damp, against my window. Fog pressed close, thicker than city air should allow, curling like smoke against the glass. I grabbed my old baseball bat, kept it by the bed since the hotel, and peeked through the blinds, heart kicking up. Nothing but mist, swirling slow, but a smear streaked the pane, dark, sticky, like the stuff on 616's door. My stomach twisted. Rule #3 nagging. If you see a second you in the lobby mirror, take the next day off. I checked my bathroom mirror. Reflection normal, tired, but alone. Just paranoid, I told myself, but the bat stayed close. Sleep got worse. Dreams of mirrors bleeding fog. My doppelganger's grin stretching too wide. Claws glinting. One night my phone buzzed. Screen blank, no caller id. But whispers hissed through. Emily? Soft, wet. Her voice now. Rula hash. One echoed. If the phone in room 616 rings, do not answer it. I smashed it silent, but the whispers lingered, seeping from the walls, a faint hum vibrating the floor. My scratches flared, raid oozing, dark drops staining my sheets, and I scrubbed them raw, cursing under my breath. Next day, a cow worker from the hotel texted, Jake, a dishwasher with a nervous laugh. Heard you quit. Gus is gone too. Locker's empty. Weird shit's picking up. I froze, fingers numb. Gus's warning replayed. They never leave. I asked about 616. He said a new guest checked in. Pale, smiling too wide. Asked for me by name. My throat closed up. Rule hash 2 burning. The guests in room 616 don't check out. Don't knock on their door. Stay away, I typed back. But my phone buzzed again. Static spitting. Emily. Closer. And I chucked it across the room, screen cracking. The city wasn't safe anymore. Mirrors fogged up. Bathroom car. Even my damn compact. Clouding over when I looked too long. My reflection shifted. Subtle. A twitch. Grinning when I wasn't. Eyes darker. Watching. I avoided them. Kept the lights on. But shadows curled anyway. Long. Cold. Brushing my ankles like damp fingers. The TV flickered one night. Static buzzing loud, and Gus's voice crackled through. You didn't win, kid. Law. Wet. Cutting off with a snap. My chest ached. He was right. I found a forum online. Ex-hotel staff. Anonymous posts about 616. Survived a shift. Quit, but it follows one read. They take you later. Slow. My hands shook scrolling. Names I'd seen in the logs. Vanished years back. All warning the same. It's not over. The scratches bled again, dark, thick, pooling on my floor, and I felt it. A tug, cold and sharp, like something pulling at my shadow. I checked the mirror. My eyes glowed faint. Just a heartbeat, then dulled. No, I croaked, backing up, breath fogging fast. My apartment hummed, soft sough, like the hotel's pulse, creeping in. A knock hit the door. Slow, deliberate, and I grabbed the bat, heart pounding. Who's there? I yelled, voice cracking. No answer, just a whisper. Emily. Wet, familiar, her voice layered with Gus's now. I peeked through the peephole. Fog pressed close, a figure swaying, pale, grinning, eyes black as pits. The scratches burned, blood dripping, and my reflection in the bat's shine winked. Quick, cruel. I bolted the door, shoved the couch against it, but the hum swelled, vibrating the walls, my teeth, and the lights flickered, casting my shadow long. It moved, slid left when I went right, and I swung the bat, crack, shattering a lamp, but it snapped back, curling like smoke. My phone buzzed again. Dead on the floor. Screen dark, but static screamed. Emily. Home. And I knew it wasn't letting go. I trapped her. Sure. But room 616 wasn't done, and I was running out of places to hide. Fog choked my apartment, thick and sour, seeping under the door like a living thing. I stood frozen, bat slipping from my hands, scratches on my arms bleeding dark, sticky, pooling black on the floor. The hum swelled. Low, alive. Rule hash 1 useless now. If the phone in room 616 rings, do not answer it. My phone buzzed, dead cracked, but static screamed. Emily, wet, her voice layered with theirs. A knock hit, hard wet, and the door buckled. Wood splintering. Rule #2 burned. The guests in room 616 don't check out. Don't knock on their door. I peeked out. My doppelganger grinned back. Eyes hollow, claws glinting, stepping through the fog. Mirrors steamed. Bathroom windows. Her face in everyone, smiling too wide. She lunged, claws sinking into my chest, cold fire searing, and I screamed. But she merged, shadow twisting into mine, the hum roaring in my skull. I woke in room 616, walls pulsing, mirrors gleaming red. Scratches turned to claws, fog leaking from my breath. Guests' voices chanted. Emily, trapped in the walls, pleading. My phone rang, static spitting the rules. And I answered, voice flat. I'm here. The hotel hummed, alive in my bones, hungry. I'm the night shift now. Eyes hollow, standing in the lobby, reciting rules to a new hire. Don't answer. 616's phone, I say, grinning slow. I'm the mirrored, luring souls. The hotel's heartbeat mine. A cold, endless trap. The storm came out of nowhere. A wall of black clouds swallowing the horizon as Flight 234 bucked through the Pacific sky. Mark gripped the controls, sweat beading on his forehead, shouting over the roar of the engines. Hold on, we're going down. Lightning split the darkness, illuminating the terrified faces of the passengers. Lisa, clutching her medical bag. Tyler cursing under his breath. Emma wide-eyed and silent. Carl braced against his seat. The plane shuddered, metal groaning, then plunged, spiraling toward the ocean below. Impact was a blur of screams and shattering glass. Mark came to with salt water stinging his eyes. The cockpit half submerged, waves lapping at his legs. He stumbled out, coughing, onto a white sand beach littered with wreckage. The plane's tail jutted from the surf like a broken spine, smoke curling into the dawn sky. Anyone alive? He yelled, voice hoarse. Lisa staggered up, her arm bleeding, dragging her bag. Over here! Tyler emerged next, suit torn, spitting sand. Emma crawled from the fuselage, shaking, while Carl limped over, clutching a salvaged flare gun. 5 survivors, battered but breathing, stood amid the chaos, the storm retreating as fast as it had struck. Where the hell are we? Tyler muttered, scanning the horizon. No ships, no planes, just endless water and a dense jungle stretching inland, its canopy a tangle of green and shadow. Mark checked his radio. Static crackling. No signal. Charts don't show an island here. We're off the map. They salvaged what they could. Food packets, a first aid kit, a few bottles of water, and set up camp near the wreckage. The beach was pristine, the air thick with salt and something sweeter, like overripe fruit. Lisa patched up cuts, her hands steady despite the tremor in her voice. We need water. This won't last. Carl nodded, hefting a machete from the wreckage. Jungle's gotta have a stream. Let's move. Lou, Tyler grumbled but followed, while Emma stuck close to Mark, her optimism flickering. Maybe someone will find us soon. The jungle swallowed them as they pushed inland, vines snagging their clothes, the air growing humid and heavy. Birds called. Sharp, staccato cries, but no wings fluttered. Mark hacked at the undergrowth, unease prickling his neck. Feels like we're being watched. A rustle snapped through the trees, loud and close. They froze, eyes darting. Just the wind, Tyler said, but his voice shook. Then Emma pointed. Tyler's backpack, left at camp, hung from a branch 10 feet up, swaying gently. How'd that get here? They found a stream an hour later, clear water bubbling over rocks, and filled their bottles. Lisa knelt to wash her hands, then froze. Look at this. Beneath the surface, a fish floated, dead, its eyes gouged out, flesh shredded like something had clawed it apart. That's not normal, she whispered. Carl scouted ahead, machete raised, and called back. You ought to see this. They pushed through a curtain of vines into a clearing dominated by an ancient temple. Crumbling stone, draped in moss, its walls etched with carvings. Multi-limbed figures danced across the surface, their eyes hollow, mouths gaping. At the center, a pedestal held a glowing stone, pulsing faintly like a heartbeat. "Holy crap," Tyler said, stepping closer. "This thing's gotta be worth a fortune." Before anyone could stop him, he grabbed the stone, its light flaring in his hand. The air shifted, colder, and a low hum vibrated through the ground. Emma clutched Mark's arm. "Put it back, Tyler," but he smirked, pocketing it. Finders keepers, back at camp. Dusk painted the sky blood red. They ate scavenged fruit, the silence broken only by the surf. Lisa stitched Carl's leg, her fingers trembling. "Something's off." "That temple. It didn't feel right." Mark nodded, staring at the jungle. "Yeah, too quiet now." The bird calls had stopped, replaced by a stillness that pressed on their ears. Tyler fiddled with the stone, its glow casting shadows on his face. "You're all paranoid. This is our ticket out." A twig snapped beyond the firelight, sharp as a gunshot. They jumped, peering into the dark. "Who's there?" Carl barked, flare gun raised. No answer, just the rustle of leaves, rhythmic, like breathing. Emma hugged her knees, whispering, "I saw something. Eyes, red, out there." Mark grabbed a flashlight, sweeping the beam across the trees. It caught a symbol carved into a trunk, 3 jagged lines, fresh, sap dripping like blood. "What the hell?" he muttered. The beam flickered, then died, plunging them into gloom. Footsteps crunched closer, slow, deliberate, circling the camp. Lisa's breath hitched. "That's not an animal!" Tyler stood, stone in hand, shouting, "Back off!" The footsteps stopped, and a whisper slithered through the air. "Mine!" Low and guttural, chilling their bones. Carl fired the flare, a streak of red arcing into the jungle. It lit up a shape. Tall, shadowy, limbs twisting unnaturally, before vanishing into the dark. Emma screamed, scrambling back, while Tyler dropped the stone, its glow pulsing faster. "What was that?" The whispers grew, overlapping, a chorus of mine, mine, mine. Shadows stretched across the sand, too long, too thin to be theirs. Mark grabbed a jagged piece of wreckage, heart pounding. "We're not alone." Night closed in, the fire sputtering as the island woke up. Hungry, watching, waiting. The night after finding the temple stretched long and cold, the fire at camp flickering weakly against the dark. Mark sat watch, clutching his jagged piece of wreckage, eyes scanning the jungle where the flare had lit up that twisted shadow. Lisa huddled by the flames, her medical bag open, stitching a gash on Carl's arm from a jagged branch. "We need to leave at first light," she said, voice tight. "This place isn't safe." Tyler paced, the glowing stone still in his pocket, its light pulsing through his shirt. "You're overreacting. It was just some animal." But his bravado cracked when a low growl rumbled from the trees, shaking the sand beneath them. Emma jolted awake, her sleeping bag tangled. "Where's Tyler's backpack?" It was gone again. Shredded straps scattered across camp, the stone untouched inside. "Something took it," she whispered, eyes wide. Mark stood, flashlight dead in his hand. "Stay close. We're not splitting up." But as he spoke, a shadow darted behind the wreckage. Fast, too tall for a man. Carl aimed the flare gun, finger twitching. "Show yourself." The growl came again, closer, wet and guttural, like something drowning in its own throat. Tyler froze mid-step, the stone slipping from his pocket. It hit the sand, glowing brighter, and the whispers returned. "Mine, mine, mine," swirling around them. A crunch snapped through the dark, footsteps circling, heavy and deliberate. Mark swung his weapon, shouting, "Back off!" But the shadows thickened, swallowing the firelight. Then Tyler was gone. 1 second he stood by the wreckage, The next, his scream tore through the night, cut off by a sickening snap. Lisa bolted up, flashlight flickering to life, its beam catching a trail of blood leading into the jungle. The stone lay abandoned, pulsing like a heartbeat. "He's gone," Emma sobbed, clutching Lisa. Mark grabbed the stone, shoving it into his pack. "We're moving. Now." Dawn broke gray and heavy, the survivors abandoning camp, trekking inland toward the temple. Mark led, the stone a weight in his pack. Lisa and Emma stumbling behind, Carl guarding the rear with the flare gun. The jungle pressed in, vines curling tighter, branches snapping without wind. "It's following us," Carl muttered, glancing back. Footprints appeared in the mud, clawed, too wide, vanishing as they watched. Lisa stopped, gagging. A deer hung from a tree, gutted, its eyes gouged out, blood dripping into a puddle below. "That's fresh," she said, voice trembling. A rustle shook the leaves above, as something wet splattered on her shoulder. Dark, sticky, not rain. She wiped it off, hand shaking, and found it smelled of rot. Emma screamed, pointing at a tree trunk, words carved deep into the bark reed. "Return what is mine," the sap running red like blood. Mark gripped the stone tighter. "It wants this back. We're giving it." The temple loomed ahead, its stone walls slick with moss. They entered, the air cold and stale, the carvings seeming to shift in the dim light, limbs stretching, mouths widening. Mark set the stone on the pedestal, its glow flaring, then dimming. "There, done, done, done." A roar shook the chamber, deep and furious, rattling dust from the ceiling. "That didn't work," Carl said, flare gun raised. Shadows bled from the walls, pooling into a shape. Tall, amorphous, red eyes glowing like embers. It lunged, claws slashing, and Carl fired. The flare streaked red, hitting the creature's chest, flames licking its form. It screeched, retreating into the dark, but the ground trembled, roots snaking up through the floor. "Out!" Mark yelled, shoving Lisa and Emma toward the exit. Carl followed, but a root coiled around his leg, yanking him back. He screamed, hacking at it with the machete, sap spraying like blood. The creature loomed again, its form shifting, now humanoid, now spider-like, its jaw unhinging with a crack. Claws tore into Carl's chest, ripping through flesh and bone. He gurgled, blood bubbling from his mouth, then went still. Mark dragged Lisa and Emma out, the temple collapsing behind them, dust choking the air. Carl's screams echoed in their ears, his body lost to the rubble. They ran, jungle blurring past, until they hit the beach, collapsing near the wreckage. "We're down to 3, Lisa panted, tears streaking her face. "It's not stopping." Emma rocked, muttering, "It's the island. It's alive." Mark stared at the trees, shifting subtly, closing off paths they'd taken. A whisper hissed through the leaves. "Mine." And a shadow flitted across the sand, too fast to track. Lisa clutched her head, wincing. "I keep seeing it. In my dreams? Red eyes, claws." She trailed off, eyes glassy. Mark shook her. "Stay with me." "We're building a raft. We're getting out." They scavenged wreckage, metal sheets, ropes, working fast as dusk fell. Footsteps crunched behind the trees, circling, louder now. Mark teed planks together, hands shaking, while Lisa bandaged a cut on Emma's arm. A growl rolled over the beach, low and wet, vibrating the sand. Emma bolted upright, screaming, "It's here!" The flashlight beam caught red eyes, close, unblinking. Then they vanished. A bloody handprint smeared across the wreckage, fresh, human-sized, but clawed. "That's Carl's," Lisa whispered, voice breaking. The raft took shape, crude but buoyant, Mark dragged it to the surf, waves lapping at his knees. Get on! But as Lisa climbed aboard, Emma froze, staring at the jungle. It's calling me, she said, voice flat, stepping toward the trees. Emma, no, Lisa lunged, grabbing her arm, but Emma twisted free, running into the dark. Her scream pierced the night. High, desperate, then silence. Mark pulled Lisa onto the raft, shoving off. We can't save her! We can't save her! The ocean stretched black and endless, the raft bobbing on the waves. Lisa sobbed, clutching the edge, while Mark paddled with a broken seat. The island shrank behind them, its silhouette jagged against the sky. It can't follow us here. A splash rocked the raft, something heavy hitting the water. Mark swung the flashlight, its beam catching a shape beneath the surface. Long, shadowed, circling. Red eyes broke the waves, glowing, then sank. It's not done, Lisa whispered, her voice hollow. The jungle's edge lit up, flames faint but growing. A figure stood on the shore. Emma motionless, her eyes red, grinning too wide. Whispers carried over the water. Mine, mine, mine. Fading as the island burned, but the dread lingered, cold and sharp. The raft bobbed uselessly on the black waves, the island's burning silhouette taunting Mark and Lisa as Emma's red-eyed figure vanished into the jungle. The creature's shadow circled beneath the water, its growls rumbling through the hull. We can't outrun it, Mark said, voice tight, gripping the broken seat he'd used as a paddle. We have to end this. Lisa's eyes were wild, her hands trembling. End it? With what? We've got nothing left. But Mark pointed to the shore, jaw set, the temple. That stone started this. We finish it there. They paddled back, the surf crashing against them, the creature's red eyes breaking the waves, closer each time. Sand crunched underfoot. As they hit the beach, abandoning the raft, the jungle loomed. Trees shifting like sentinels, roots curling toward them. A whisper hissed through the leaves. Mine. Sharp and furious. Mark scavenged a jagged metal shard from the wreckage, handing Lisa a spear-like branch. He hit it hard and fast. She nodded, gripping the wood, her knuckles white. The temple wasn't far. Its mossy spires jutted above the canopy, glowing faintly from the stone within. A roar shook the ground as they pushed through the vines, the air thick with rotten salt. Footsteps thudded behind, heavy, wet, gaining fast. Mark swung his flashlight, catching a glimpse. Long, shadowy limbs twisting, red eyes blazing. Run! Shadowy limbs twisting, red eyes blazing, he yelled, shoving Lisa ahead. The temple's entrance gaped like a maw, the pedestal inside pulsing with the stone's light. Mark skidded to a halt, Lisa beside him, panting. They burn it, he said, pulling a lighter from his pocket, salvaged from Carl's gear. Destroy the stone, maybe it stops. Before they could move, the creature burst in, a nightmare of shadow and bone, 10 feet tall, its form shifting, now humanoid with claws, now a mass of writhing tendrils, its jaw unhinged, teeth glinting like knives, red eyes glowing with hate. A guttural roar split the air, shaking the walls, dust raining down. Lisa lunged, spear thrusting at its chest. It swatted her aside, the wood snapping, sending her crashing into the carvings. She screamed, clutching her side, blood seeping through her shirt. Mark swung his shard, slashing its arm. Black ichor sprayed, sizzling on the stone floor. The creature screeched, claws slashing back, grazing his shoulder, tearing flesh. It's not enough! Lisa yelled, scrambling up. She grabbed a fallen torch from the debris, lighting it with Mark's lighter. Flames flared, casting wild shadows. The creature recoiled, its eyes narrowing, but it lunged again, tendrils snaking toward her. Mark tackled it, driving the shard into its side. It roared, thrashing, slamming him against the pedestal. The stone toppled, cracking on the floor. its glow flickering. Lisa thrust the torch at its face. Flames licking its shadowy form, it shrieked, a sound like metal grinding retreating toward the back wall. "Keep going! Going!" Mark shouted, grabbing the stone. He smashed it against the pedestal, once, twice. Cracks spiderwebbed across it, light pulsing erratically. The creature howled, its body convulsing, tendrils lashing out. One caught Lisa's leg, yanking her down. She stabbed it with the torch, burning it free, the stench of charred flesh filling the air. The temple trembled, roots breaking through the floor, coiling toward them. "It's the island," Lisa gasped, dodging a tendril. "It's fighting back." Mark raised the shard, driving it into the stone's core. It shattered, light exploding in a blinding flash, then dying out. The creature froze, its roar turning to a wail. High, piercing, rattling their skulls. Its form unraveled, shadows bleeding into the cracks, red eyes dimming. The roots stilled, the temple's hum fading to silence. It collapsed into a heap of ash and ichor, the air heavy with its decay. Mark dropped to his knees, chest heaving, blood dripping from his shoulder. Lisa crawled over, torch extinguished, her side slick with red. "Is it over?" she whispered, voice raw. He nodded, staring at the ash. "Yeah, it's done." The jungle outside quieted. No whispers, no footsteps, just the distant crash of waves. The temple's carvings seemed to fade, the walls slumping as if exhausted. They staggered out, leaning on each other, the beach stretching before them under a gray dawn. The wreckage smoldered, the raft half sunk in the surf. "We beat it," Mark said, but his voice lacked conviction. Lisa clutched her side, wincing, her eyes darting to the trees. A faint rustle stirred the leaves, soft, almost nothing. Mark tensed, shard raised but no shadow moved. "Just the wind," he muttered, lowering it. Lisa didn't answer, her gaze distant, fixed on the jungle's edge. The silence felt wrong, too still, too empty. The island watched, its presence lingering like a held breath. They'd won, but at what cost? 3 were gone, and the air carried a whisper too faint to hear, yet there, teasing the edge of their minds. The temple's silence was deafening as Mark and Lisa stumbled out. The dawn sky a dull gray over the unmapped island. Mark's shoulder bled through his torn shirt, the jagged metal shard still clutched in his hand, slick with black ichor. Lisa limped beside him, her side bruised and bloody, the broken torch dangling uselessly from her grip. The jungle stretched before them, its trees still, too still, after the chaos. "We did it," Mark rasped, his voice raw, glancing at the ash-streaked temple behind them. "It's over." Lisa didn't respond, her eyes locked on the beach ahead, the wreckage smoldering in the surf. Her breath hitched, a faint tremble in her hands. "It doesn't feel over," she whispered, brushing a strand of hair from her face, streaked with dirt and blood. A rustle stirred the leaves, soft, fleeting. Mark spun, shard raised, heart pounding, but the jungle stayed empty. "Just the wind," he muttered, lowering his arm. Lisa's gaze lingered on the trees, her lips parting like she'd heard something he hadn't. They reached the beach, collapsing near the half-sunk raft. The waves lapped at the wreckage, washing away scraps of metal and blood. Mark scavenged a water bottle from the debris, cracked but holding a few sips. He handed it to Lisa, who drank, wincing as it stung her cracked lips. "3 gone," she said, voice hollow. "Tyler, come on. All for that damn stone." Mark nodded, staring at the ocean. "We survived. That's what matters." But his words felt thin, swallowed by the island's oppressive quiet. A shadow flickered in the surf, brief, shapeless, then vanished. He blinked, shaking it off. A faint buzz broke the silence, growing louder. A helicopter's rotor slicing the air. Mark scrambled up, waving his arms, shouting, "Here! We're here!" Lisa grabbed a flare from Carl's pack, firing it skyward, a streak of red arcing against the gray. The chopper banked, its spotlight sweeping the beach, pinning them in its glare. It landed on the sand, rotors whipping their hair. A medic jumping out with a stretcher. "You hurt?" He yelled over the noise, eyeing their blood-soaked clothes. Mark nodded, helping Lisa aboard. "Plane crash. Something attacked us." The medic frowned but didn't press, strapping them in as the chopper lifted off. The island shrank below, its jungle a dark smear, the temple's spire a jagged tooth against the horizon. Mark pressed his face to the window, relief washing over him, until he saw it. A figure stood at the tree line, motionless, too far to make out. Red eyes glinted, then winked out. "Did you see that?" he asked, turning to Lisa. She stared ahead, hands clenched in her lap. "See what?" Her voice was flat, her eyes distant, reflecting the chopper's dim lights oddly, almost glowing for a split second. Mark rubbed his face, chalking it up to exhaustion. Hours later, they were in a hospital off the mainland, antiseptic replacing the jungle's rot. Mark lay in a bed, shoulder stitched, IV dripping into his arm. Lisa sat across the room, her side bandaged, staring at the wall. A nurse bustled in, checking charts. "You're lucky to be alive," she said, shaking her head. "No record of an island there. Must have been uncharted." "Lucky," Mark echoed, the word tasting sour. He glanced at Lisa, who hadn't spoken since the chopper. "You okay?" She nodded slowly, a faint smile tugging at her lips. Too wide, too stiff. "Just tired," she said, but her fingers twitched, tracing invisible patterns on the bed. A cop came by, notepad in hand. "Mind telling me what happened?" Mark recounted the crash, the temple, the creature, words tumbling out, sounding crazier with each breath. Lisa stayed silent, eyes fixed on the floor. The cop scribbled, skeptical. "Well, check the site, but sounds like stress and wildlife. Get some rest." Night fell. The hospital quiet save for the hum of machines. Mark drifted off, dreaming of red eyes and shifting shadows. A scream jolted him awake. Lisa, thrashing in her bed, clawing at the air. "It's in me," she yelled, voice raw, before nurses rushed in, sedating her. Her eyes locked on his as she slumped, glowing faintly red, then dimming. Morning brought discharge papers. Mark hobbled out on crutches, Lisa trailing behind, her movements stiff, mechanical. "What you mean?" "It's in me," he asked, stopping by the parking lot. She turned, her smile stretching wider, unnatural. "Nothing. Just a nightmare." A chill ran down his spine. He noticed a scratch on her arm. Fresh 3 jagged lines like the carvings on the trees. "Lisa," he started, but she walked past, heading for the street. "You need air," she said, voice low, layered with something not hers. He watched her go, the hospital's fluorescent glow fading into the dusk. A whisper drifted back. Mine, soft, guttural, carried on the wind. Mark's heart sank. They'd escaped the island, but something had come with them, buried deep in Lisa, waiting to wake. Mark stood in the hospital parking lot, crutches digging into his armpits, watching Lisa disappear into the dusk. Her shadow stretched too long across the pavement, her steps too smooth, too quiet. That whisper, "Mine," lingered in his ears, cold and guttural, sinking into his bones. He shook his head, hobbling to his car, the keys trembling in his hand. "She's just shaken up," he muttered, but the lie tasted bitter. Back at his apartment, the city buzzed outside, horns honking, lights flickering, normalcy that felt like a mask. He collapsed on the couch, shoulder throbbing, the TV droning news about a missing plane. No mention of the island, no trace of flight 234. He grabbed his phone. Scrolling through contacts, Lisa's name stared back, uncalled. A text popped up, unknown number. Look behind you, his breath caught. Head snapping around. Nothing but shadows on the wall, shifting faintly. Sleep came fitful, plagued by red eyes and Lisa's warped grin. He woke to a thud, his crutches fallen, rolling across the floor. The TV flickered, static buzzing, her voice leaking through. Mine. He yanked the plug, heart racing, but the whisper echoed in the silence. Days blurred into weeks. Mark dug online, no sleep, forums, anything. Finding whispers of unmapped islands, cursed stones, creatures that take root in survivors. A post chilled him. It doesn't let go. It spreads. Attached was a blurry photo. A woman with glowing eyes, smiling too wide, vanishing into a crowd. Lisa. He called her, voicemail clicking on. Lisa, it's Mark. Where are you? Static answered. Then her laugh. Low wrong, layered with that growl. The line cut dead. That night, his mirror reflected a scratch on his neck. 3 jagged lines. Fresh. Bleeding. No, he gasped. Scrubbing it raw, but it stayed. A month later, news broke. A hospital orderly found dead, eyes gouged, chest clawed open, Mark's gout twisted. The address was Lisa's last known spot. He drove there, parking across the street, watching. She emerged from an alley, pale, her grin splitting her face, red eyes glinting under the streetlight. A man followed her, dazed, then vanished into the dark. Mark's phone buzzed. A video, no sender. It showed Lisa on the island, standing over the temple's ash, her voice chanting, Mine. The creature rose behind her, merging into a shadow, its claws hers now. The screen went black, his reflection staring back, eyes flickering red. Just for a second, he dropped the phone, backing away. She'd brought it back, not just in her, but in him. The island wasn't done. It never would be, out there. Lisa walked free, spreading its hunger, and Mark felt it stirring, whispering in his blood. David's boots crunched over pine needles, the crisp air of the forest filling his lungs as he adjusted his backpack. The hiking trip had been Alex's idea. A weekend getaway to shake off the grind of city life. This place has some wild legends, Alex had said, grinning over beers the night before. Haunted woods, creepy stuff. Perfect for us. Sarah and Mike had jumped on board, their excitement infectious, but David wasn't so sure. Sarah wasn't so sure. Still, he'd tagged along, the 4 of them piling into his beat-up Jeep and heading for the trails. The forest stretched endless and thick, sunlight barely piercing the canopy, casting long shadows that danced across the path. They'd set up camp by noon. A cluster of tents near a gurgling creek, the fire crackling as dusk settled in. Ghost story time? Sarah teased, passing around a bag of marshmallows. Mike spun a tale about lost hikers, but Alex cut in, eyes gleaming. There's a temple out there, old as hell, supposed to be cursed. Want to check it out? David frowned, poking the fire. Sounds like a bad idea. But the others were already on their feet, flashlights bobbing, dragging him along with their laughter. The temple loomed after a half-hour trek. Crumbling stone draped in moss, vines snaking up its walls like veins. Inside, the air was damp and heavy, smelling of rot. A statue dominated the center. A creature, tall and gaunt, its bark-like skin carved with jagged lines, eyes glowing red in the flashlight beams. Whoa, Mike breathed, stepping closer. Alex smirked, spotting a small stone relic at its base. A miniature of the creature, smooth and cold. Back at camp, the fire sputtered low, the forest unnervingly quiet. No crickets, no owls, just a stillness that pressed on their ears. David zipped into his tent, unease gnawing at him, the relic's glow flickering through Alex's sleeping bag across the site. You're paranoid, he muttered to himself, drifting off. A roar jolted him awake, deep guttural, shaking the ground. He scrambled out, flashlight trembling in his hand. The tents were empty, sleeping bags tossed, no sign of his friends. "Alex? Sarah?" he yelled, voice cracking. The fire was dead, embers cold. A rustle snapped through the trees, loud and close. He swung the beam, catching a shadow darting between trunks. Too tall, too fast. Panic clawed his chest as he stumbled into the woods, calling their names. The beam hit something. Mike, sprawled in the dirt. Chest torn open, ribs splayed like a broken cage. Eyes wide and blank. David gagged, dropping the flashlight. Its light rolling to Sarah. Her throat slashed, blood pooling in the leaves, face frozen in a scream. Alex lay nearby, arms twisted unnaturally, guts spilling out, the relic clutched in his stiff hand. A growl rumbled behind him. Low, wet, vibrating the air. David spun, the beam catching it. The creature from the statue, alive, its bark-like skin peeling, red eyes blazing like coals. Claws glinted, slashing at him. He ducked, the tips grazing his back, hot pain searing through. He bolted, branches whipping his face, crashing into a hollow tree. He curled inside, breath ragged, the growls circling, claws scraping bark inches away. Dawn broke gray and cold, the forest silent. David crawled out, shaking, the creature gone. He stumbled back to camp, the relic abandoned in Alex's hand. His friends' bodies lay where had left them, flies buzzing over the gore. He dug shallow graves with a camp shovel, hands blistering, tears streaking his face, whispering, "I'm sorry," over and over. The hike out blurred. Hours of staggering through the trees, thorns snagging his clothes, the weight of their deaths crushing him. He hit the highway, flagged a trucker, and made it home, collapsing in his apartment. The city's hum a stark contrast to the forest's hush. Sleep brought nightmares, red eyes, growls, his friends' voices calling from the dark. Weeks later, he walked downtown, trying to shake the ghosts. A figure caught his eye across the street. Alex, alive, laughing with a stranger. David froze, heart slamming against his ribs. "Alex!" he shouted, running over. Alex turned, confusion creasing his face. "Do I know you, man?" His voice was flat, eyes empty. David's stomach dropped. "The forest, Mike, Sarah, away." Alex backed away, shaking his head. "Get lost, creep!" He vanished into the crowd, leaving David reeling, the relic's glow flashing in his mind. Something was wrong. Dead wrong. And it wasn't over yet. David stood frozen on the bustling city street, the hum of traffic fading as Alex's cold dismissal echoed in his head. He'd buried Alex, seen his guts spilled across the forest floor. So was he here, alive and acting like they'd never met? His hands shook as he dialed Sarah's number, a desperate hope clawing at him. It rang once, twice, then her voice, bright, unfamiliar, answered. "Who's this?" David stammered. "Sarah? It's me, David." From the trip, she cut him off, sharp and curt. "Wrong number, buddy. Don't call again." The line went dead. He stumbled to a bench, mind racing. A shadow flitted across the pavement, too tall, too thin, gone when he blinked. "I'm losing it," he muttered, rubbing his eyes. But the memory of those red eyes in the forest burned bright, and a whisper slithered through the crowd. Mine, low and guttural, chilling his spine. That night, he broke into Sarah's apartment, her address still etched in his memory from group texts. The lock clicked under his shaky hands, the door creaking open to a sterile space. Furniture new, walls bare. No hiking gear, no photos of them. A picture frame on the counter showed her smiling with strangers. No trace of him or the others. A rustle came from the bedroom. He froze, heart pounding. But it was just curtains swaying in the breeze. Still, he swore he saw her reflection in the glass, eyes glowing red for a split second. Sleep brought no relief. David's dreams plunged him back into the forest, the creature looming, its bark-like skin peeling claws, dripping black sap. "Bring it back," it growled, voice echoing in his skull. He woke drenched in sweat, the relic shape burned into his mind. The clock read 3:17 a.m. A thud hit the floor, his hiking boots toppled over, laces untied like someone had touched them. He scoured online forums, in our sleep, creepy threads, finding tales of cursed woods and things that wear faces. A post chilled him. It doesn't kill you all. It takes some, uses them. His phone buzzed, an unknown number texting. Look outside. He yanked the curtains back. Alex stood across the street, staring up, unblinking, then turned and walked away. David tracked Alex to a dive bar the next night, the relic's weight a phantom in his pocket. Alex sat alone, nursing a beer, his posture stiff. Alex, we need to talk, David said, sliding into the booth. Alex had snapped up, eyes narrowing. Told you I don't know you. His voice was flat, but his fingers twitched, then glowed red, faint, like embers under skin. David lunged, grabbing his arm. Where's the relic? Alex shoved him hard, unnatural strength sending David crashing into a table. Back off! Alex snarled, eyes flaring red, before storming out. David's apartment became a war zone. Locks double-checked, windows taped shut. He dug through his pack, finding a crumpled map of the forest, the temple marked in red. A whisper hissed from the walls. Mine, mine. Overlapping, relentless. He smashed a mirror to stop it, shards scattering, his reflection showing scratches on his neck. 3 jagged lines, fresh, bleeding. He tailed Sarah to her job at a coffee shop, watching from across the street. She moved mechanically, serving customers, but her smile was too wide, teeth glinting oddly. A coworker bumped her. Her eyes flashed red, just for a heartbeat, then dulled. David's grew twisted. They weren't his friends anymore. At Mike's old gym, he found him lifting weights, alive, oblivious. Mike, it's David, he pleaded, blocking his path. Mike stared through him. Blank, never seen you before. A trainer dragged David out, but not before he saw Mike's shadow stretch. Long, twisted, claw-like. Then snapped back. Dreams worsened. The creature's voice clearer. Return what's mine, or they stay mine. Or they stay mine. David woke to footsteps pacing his room, heavy and deliberate, but no one was there. His fridge door hung open, claw marks gouged into the metal, dripping something dark and sticky. Not blood, worse. He cornered Alex again, outside a grocery store, desperation boiling over. I know you're not you, David hissed, grabbing his collar. Alex's eyes glowed bright red, his grin splitting wide. Too wide, teeth sharp. You shouldn't have come back, he growled, voice layered with the creature's rumble. He swung, fist cracking David's jaw, sending him sprawling. The relic fell from Alex's pocket. David snatched it, bolting as Alex's roar chased him down the street. David locked himself in, the relic cold in his hand, pulsing faintly. A knock rattled the door. Sarah's voice soft, pleading. Let me in, Dave. We're worried. He peeked through the peephole. Her face pressed close, eyes red, unblinking. A predator's grin stretching her lips. Mine, she whispered, clawing the wood. He grabbed his keys, the map, a kitchen knife, anything, and headed for the Jeep. The city blurred past, streetlights flickering, shadows darting in his mirrors. A call from Mike buzzed his phone. Where you going, man? His voice wrong, layered, laughing. David tossed it out the window, tires screeching toward the forest. The tree line loomed, dark and silent, welcoming him back. He clutched the relic, heart slamming, knowing the creature was waiting, using his friends, pulling him in. A growl rumbled through the woods, low and hungry, as he stepped inside, the conspiracy tightening its grip. David's Jeep screeched to a halt at the forest's edge, tires kicking up gravel as the headlights cut through the dark. The trees loomed tall and silent, their branches swaying without wind, like they'd been waiting for him. He clutched the relic, its cold weight pulsing in his hand, and grabbed the kitchen knife from the passenger seat, his only weapon. This ends tonight, he muttered, stepping into the woods, the growl from his nightmares rumbling low in the distance. The path to the temple was a blur of thorns and shadows, the air thick with rot, and something metallic. A whisper hissed through the leaves. Mine, sharp and furious, rattling his nerves. He pushed forward, flashlight beam trembling, catching claw marks gouged into trunks, fresh sap dripping like blood. Footsteps crunched behind him. He spun, knife raised, but the trail was empty, just shadows stretching too long. The temple emerged from the gloom, its mossy walls cracked, the statue's red eyes glowing brighter than before. David's heart slammed against his ribs as he stepped inside, the relic's pulse sensing with his own. "Come out, you bastard!" he shouted, voice echoing off the stone. A roar answered, deep, guttural, shaking the floor, dust raining from the ceiling. It stepped from the shadows, the creature, taller than he remembered, its bark-like skin peeling in strips, revealing black, oozing flesh beneath. Its claws glinted, long and jagged, red eyes blazing like twin fires. "You brought it back!" It snarled, voice a gravelly rasp that clawed at his mind. But it's not enough. It lunged, claws slashing at his chest. David dodged, the tips grazing his arm, hot pain flaring. He swung the knife, slashing its side. Black ichor sprayed, sizzling on the stone floor. The creature screeched, a sound like splintering wood, and swatted him back, sending him crashing into the pedestal. The relic clattered free, rolling toward the statue. He scrambled up, lungs burning as it advanced, its form shifting, limbs twisting, tendrils sprouting from its back, writhing like snakes. "You can't save them," it growled, jaws unhinging with a sickening crack, revealing rows of needle-sharp teeth. A tendril lashed out, wrapping his ankle. He stabbed it, ichor spurting, and broke free, diving for the relic. The ground trembled, roots bursting through the floor, coiling toward him. "The forest fights too," he yelled, hacking at them with the knife, sap spraying like blood. The creature roared again, charging. David rolled aside, its claws smashing the pedestal, stone exploding in shards. He grabbed a broken spear from the debris, a jagged piece of wood, and gripped the relic tight. "Let them go," he screamed, driving the spear at its chest. It caught the shaft, snapping it, but David ducked under its arm, jamming the relic into its gaping maw. The creature gagged, red eyes widening, thrashing as the stone lodged deep. Rot snaked up his legs, pinning him. He slashed free, adrenaline pumping, and tackled it, forcing the spear's splintered end into its chest. Black ichor gushed, soaking his hands, the creature's roar turning to a wail, high and piercing, rattling his skull. "Die already!" he yelled, twisting the wood deeper. The temple shook, cracks spiderwebbing up the walls. The creature convulsed, tendrils flailing, then collapsed, its body dissolving into ash and sludge, red eyes dimming to black. The roots stilled, the relic falling from its jaws, cracked but dark, its glow gone. David stumbled back, chest heaving, the silence deafening. He staggered outside, knife dripping ichor, the forest eerily calm. No growls, no whispers. A rustle stirred the bushes. He tensed, but Alex emerged, alive, blinking in confusion. "David," Sarah followed. Then Mike, their faces pale but human, eyes clear. "What happened?" Sarah asked, voice shaky. David dropped the knife, relief crashing over him. "It's over. I killed it." They hugged him, tears mixing with dirt, their warmth real. Too real after months of doubt. "You saved us," Alex said, clapping his shoulder, a faint smile breaking through. The temple crumbled behind them, dust rising into the dawn sky. They trekked out, leaning on each other, the forest parting like it was letting them go. David glanced back. The statue's eyes were dull, lifeless. He'd won, hadn't he? But as they hit the jeep, a faint whisper brushed his ear. "Mine," so soft he might have imagined it, chilling his blood. The forest lay still as David led Alex, Sarah, and Mike away from the temple's ruins, the dawn sky bleeding pale light through the trees. His hands trembled, slick with black ichor, the kitchen knife abandoned in the dirt behind them. Alex clapped his shoulder, voice rough but warm. "Man, I don't know how you pulled that off, but I owe you." Sarah nodded, her arms wrapped tight around herself, while Mike trailed silently, rubbing his neck like he'd just woken from a bad dream. David forced a smile, the relic's cracked shell heavy in his pocket. "Yeah, it's done. Let's just get out of here." But his eyes darted to the shadows, too still, too watchful. A rustle stirred the leaves, faint and fleeting. He spun, heart kicking. But it was just a squirrel darting up a trunk. Jumpy much? Alex teased, but his laugh sounded forced. The Jeep waited at the trailhead, dust-coated and real, a lifeline to the world beyond. They piled in, David behind the wheel, the engine rumbling to life. Sarah leaned against the window, staring at the forest's edge. "I thought we were goners," she murmured, her breath fogging the glass. A shadow flickered in the rearview mirror. Tall, thin, gone when David blinked. The drive back to the city was quiet, the radio crackling static before Mike switched it off. "Feels like a lifetime ago," he said, voice low, breaking the silence. David nodded, knuckles white on the steering wheel. "Yeah, let's keep it that way." He dropped them off. Alex at his downtown loft, Sarah at her apartment, Mike at his gym, each parting with a shaky hug, promises to grab beers soon. Alone in his place, David collapsed on the couch, the relic on the coffee table, its cracks glinting in the lamplight. He showered, scrubbing the ichor and dirt away, but the scratches on his neck, 3 jagged lines, stayed raw, stinging under the water. "Just a scar," he muttered, toweling off, though his reflection in the mirror looked hollow, eyes sunken. A knock rattled the door. He froze, pulse spiking. "Dave, it's us," Alex's voice called, casual and loud. David opened it, finding them all there, Alex with a 6-pack, Sarah with pizza, Mike with a grin. "Figured we owed you a night," Sarah said, brushing past. They sprawled across his living room, laughing, eating, the tension melting away. "To surviving," Alex toasted, raising a beer, and they clinked bottles, the sound sharp in the quiet. The night stretched on, the TV droning a dumb comedy. But David's gut wouldn't settle. Sarah's laugh hit a weird pitch. Too high, too long, stopping abruptly when she caught him staring. "What? Stopping abruptly when she caught him? What?" she asked, smiling, but her teeth glinted oddly, sharper than he remembered. He shook it off. "Nothing." Tired, Mike stretched, yawning, his shadow on the wall, stretching too far. Claws flickering at the edges, then snapping back. David blinked hard, chalking it up to exhaustion. Alex leaned over, whispering, "You're a damn hero, man." But his breath smelled faintly of rot, not beer. David forced a nod, sipping his drink, the relic's weight pressing on his mind. A thud came from the kitchen. The pizza box fallen, sauce smeared like blood across the floor. "Clumsy me." Sarah giggled, cleaning it up, but her fingers lingered on the stain, tracing it slowly. David's throat tightened. He grabbed the relic, slipping it into a drawer. "Let's call it a night," he said, voice tight. They left, waving from the hall, their footsteps echoing too loud, too rhythmic. David locked the door, double-checking the bolt, the apartment silent save for the hum of the fridge. He sat, staring at the drawer, a whisper brushing his ear. "Mine?" So faint he might have dreamed it. Sleep came heavy, the forest invading his dreams, the creature's ash reforming, red eyes flaring. He woke to a scratching sound, slow, deliberate, coming from the drawer. He yanked it open. The relic sat still, cracked but whole, no glow. "Get a grip," he muttered, slamming it shut, but his neck scratches itched, warm to the touch. The next day he met them for coffee, testing the waters. Alex cracked jokes, Sarah scrolled her phone, Mike sipped quietly. All normal, almost too normal. But Sarah's eyes caught the light. Red, just for a heartbeat, before she smiled, soft and warm. "You okay, Dave?" she asked, voice sweet, but her fingers tapped the table, a rhythm like claws on stone. David nodded, forcing a grin. "Yeah, just beat." They hugged goodbye, her grip lingering, nails digging slightly into his back. As they walked off, Alex glanced back. His shadow twisted, tendrils curling, then shrank. David's breath hitched. The forest was gone, but its mark wasn't. David sat on his couch, the relic locked in the drawer, its cracked surface a silent taunt. The city hummed outside, cars honking, lights buzzing, but it felt like a thin veil over something darker. His neck scratches burned, 3 jagged lines pulsing under his fingertips. "It's over," he whispered, but the words rang hollow. The coffee meet-up with Alex, Sarah, and Mike replayed in his mind. Those fleeting red glints in their eyes, the too wide smiles. He shook it off, grabbing a beer, the cold bottle grounding him. A thud hit the wall. Sharp, sudden, he froze, bottle halfway to his lips, eyes darting. The TV flickered on, static buzzing, a low growl leaking through the speakers. Mine, it hissed, layered with Sarah's voice. He yanked the plug, heart racing, but the whisper lingered, echoing in the silence. Sleep brought nightmares, the creature's ash swirling, reforming, its claws sinking into his friend's flesh, their faces twisting into its grin. He jolted awake, sweat-soaked, to a scratching at the window. Slow, deliberate. He yanked the curtains back, nothing but his reflection, eyes flickering red for a heartbeat, then dulling. No, he gasped, stumbling back. The scratches on his neck now warm, wet with something black. Days blurred. Work, home, avoiding mirrors. He scoured our no-sleep, finding threads about. Things that wear you. Survivors warning of marks that spread. His phone buzzed. An unknown text. Look outside. Alex stood across the street, staring, unblinking, then walked off, his shadow trailing tendrils. A news alert pinged. Barista found dead near Sarah's coffee shop. Throat slashed, eyes gouged out. David's stomach dropped. He drove there, parking in the lot, watching. Sarah emerged, pale, her grin splitting too wide, red eyes glinting under the streetlight. A stranger followed her, dazed, then vanished into an alley. She's not her, he muttered, hands shaking. His phone lit up. A video, no sender. It showed the temple's ruins. Sarah standing over the ash, chanting, "Mine!" The creature rose, merging into her, its claws hers now. The screen cut to static, his reflection staring back, eyes glowing red, just for a second. He dropped it, the realization crashing in. He hadn't killed it. He'd set it free. That night, a knock, soft, insistent. "Dave, it's me," Sarah's voice cooed. He peeked through the peephole. Her face pressed close, eyes red, unblinking, claws tapping the door. "Let me in," she growled. The creatures rumbled beneath her words. He backed away, knife in hand, as the lock clicked, unturning on its own. She stepped in, Alex and Mike behind, their grins matching hers, eyes blazing. "You can't run," Alex said, voice wrong, layered. David's scratches flared, his vision tinting red. He stabbed the air, screaming, "Get out!" But they just laughed, closing in. The forest hadn't let go. It lived in them, and now in him. The sun hung low in the sky, its fading light stretching the shadows of twisted trees across the winding road. As the group's beat-up SUV rumbled toward Blackwood Forest, Alex gripped the steering wheel tight, his knuckles whitening against the cracked leather. The GPS had crapped out a few miles back, the screen flickering before going blank. But he didn't need it anymore. Blackwood loomed ahead, a dark smear on the horizon, its thick canopy swallowing the last rays of daylight. "We're almost there," Alex said. His voice steadied, despite the weird mix of excitement and unease churning in his chest. He flicked a glance at Mia in the passenger seat, her camera already out, snapping shots of the encroaching tree line. She flashed a quick smile, but it didn't reach her eyes. Something about this place felt off, too quiet, too still. In the back seat, Jake sprawled out, legs kicked up over the armrest. "You're sure this is it? Looks like the set of a slasher flick." He let out a loud laugh, but it sounded forced, brittle. "Bet you $10 we're back at the car by midnight." Begging for a motel, Sarah, crammed next to him, clutched her backpack like it was a lifeline. "Can you not talk about horror movies right now?" she muttered, her voice barely audible. She'd been against this trip from the jump, but peer pressure, and Mia's relentless enthusiasm, had dragged her along. Ben, the last of the crew, sat quietly in the back, nose buried in a map. According to this, Blackwood hasn't seen foot traffic in decades. No trails, no campsites, just forest. He adjusted his glasses, frowning. "Weird thing is, there's a blank spot right in the middle of the map, like it was never charted." Alex shrugged. "Probably outdated data. That's what makes it fun, right? We're explorers." Mia twisted around, her camera flashing as she snapped a pic of the group. "Smile, guys. This trip's gonna be epic. The SUV jolted as it hit a pothole, the road narrowing into a gravel track just wide enough to squeeze through. Branches scraped the roof like skeletal fingers, and Alex eased off the gas, navigating the tight curves until the path dead-ended at a small clearing. He killed the engine and silence crashed in like a wave. "End of the line," Alex said, forcing a grin. "We're hoofing it from here." They piled out, stretching stiff limbs and grabbing their gear. The air was colder than they'd expected, thick with pine and damp earth, but underneath there was something else. A faint metallic tang that stung Mia's throat. She swallowed hard, shaking it off. Alex slung his pack over his shoulder, nodding toward a gap in the trees. "There's a trail over there, or at least there used to be." Ben squinted at the overgrown path, half hidden by weeds. "Doesn't look like anyone's been through here in years. You sure it's safe?" "Safe enough," Alex shot back, his tone breezy. But as he stepped onto the trail, a chill slithered down his spine. The forest exhaled, a faint ripple rustling the leaves overhead. Mia clicked off another shot, the flash cutting through the gloom. For a split second, she thought she saw something through the lens. A shadow, tall and thin, darting between the trunks. She blinked, and it was gone. "You okay?" Sarah asked, catching her hesitation. Mia forced a laugh. "Yeah, just thought I saw something. Probably a deer." But as they pushed deeper into the woods, unease settled over them like fog. The bark on some of the ancient oaks peeled back in strips, revealing knots that looked like faces, hollow eyes, and gaping mouths carved into the wood. Jake nudged Alex, pointing at one particularly freaky tree. "Looks like your axe," he quipped, smirking. But his usual bravado sounded hollow. Alex rolled his eyes. "Shut up, Jake." They trekked for hours, though the sun barely budged in the sky. Time felt warped, the forest muffling their footsteps and swallowing their chatter. Sarah kept glancing over her shoulder, convinced she'd heard something. A whisper, a snapping twig. But every time, it was just the endless stretch of trees staring back. Finally, they hit a small clearing next to a sluggish creek, its water murky and dark. "I am still dropping his pack," Alex decided, dropping his pack. "We'll set up here. Explore more tomorrow." As they pitched their tents, the forest seemed to watch. The canopy swayed gently, though there wasn't a breeze, branches creaking like old bones. Mia tried snapping pics of the scene, but the shots came out blurry, colors washed out and distorted. She frowned, fiddling with the settings, but everything checked out. "Must be the light," she muttered, even though the sun still lingered on the horizon, casting a weak golden glow. Ben, ever the engineer, busied himself with the campfire, stacking twigs and logs with precision. But when he struck a match, the flame flared and died, refusing to catch. He tried again, then again, frustration creeping in. "Come on, it's not rocket science," Jake teased, snatching the matches. But even he couldn't get the fire going. The pile sat cold and stubborn, like it was rejecting the heat. A chill seeped into the air, and Sarah hugged her knees tighter. "Maybe we should just eat some sandwiches and crash," Alex nodded, though his jaw clenched with unease. They ate in silence, the only sounds the rustling leaves and a distant owl's hoot. But as night fell, the noises shifted. The owl's call stretched longer, turning into a pained wail, and beneath it, something new. A low, steady thump, like a heartbeat buried deep underground. Goosebumps prickled Mia's arms. "You guys hear that?" Jake tilted his head, listening. "Yeah, kinda like drums or something. Any towns nearby?" Ben shook his head. "Nothing for miles. We're in the middle of nowhere." The thumping grew louder, vibrating through the dirt. Sarah's eyes widened, darting around the clearing. "It's getting closer." Alex stood peering into the dark. Probably just an animal. A bear or... A sharp crack split the air, like a tree snapping in half. The group froze, heads whipping toward the sound. Beyond the clearing, the shadows seemed to shift, stretching, coiling, then settling back into place. Okay, that wasn't a bear, Jake said, his voice cracking. Mia grabbed her camera, hands shaky as she aimed it at the trees. The flash popped, illuminating the forest for a heartbeat. In the split-second glare, she saw it. A figure, impossibly tall, its limbs bent at wrong angles, standing just beyond the tree line. The shutter clicked, and darkness rushed back in. "What the hell was that?" Sarah whispered, scooting closer to Ben. Mia checked the camera screen, her breath catching. The photo was empty, just trees and shadows. Whatever she'd seen was gone. "Probably a trick of the light," Alex said, but his fists were clenched tight. The thumping faded, replaced by a new sound. Faint, overlapping whispers drifting through the air. They weren't words, not yet, just a hiss of breath that prickled the back of their necks. Sarah whimpered, pulling her hood up like it could shield her. "Let's get in the tents," Ben said, his voice low. "We'll figure it out in the morning." They scrambled inside, zipping up the flaps as the whispers grew sharper, threading into something almost intelligible. "Go. Away. Mind." The air turned heavy, pressing down on them like a weight. Jake cracked a nervous joke about haunted forests, but no one laughed. Mia clutched her camera, replaying that flash of a figure in her mind. It hadn't been a deer. It hadn't even been human. She glanced at Alex, his face pale in the dim light of their lantern. He met her eyes, and for once he didn't have a reassuring grin. Outside, the trees creaked louder, their branches scraping together like claws on glass. A shadow passed over the tent, long and thin, lingering just a second too long. Sarah stifled a sob, and Ben grabbed his flashlight, flicking it on. The beam swept across the tent wall, catching nothing but fabric. "It's just the wind," he said, but his hand shook. The whispers stopped abruptly, leaving a silence so thick it buzzed in their ears. Then, from somewhere deep in the forest, a low growl rolled out, shaking the ground beneath them. It wasn't an animal. It was bigger, older, something that didn't belong in this world. Jake swallowed hard. "Tell me that's not what I think it is." No one answered. They sat there, frozen, as the growl faded into the night, leaving only the rustle of leaves and the pounding of their own hearts. Blackwood Forest wasn't just a place. It was awake, and it knew they were here. The morning after their first night in Blackwood Forest dawned gray and heavy, the sky choked with clouds that seemed to press down on the treetops. Alex was the first out of the tent, stretching his stiff limbs and kicking at the cold campfire that refused to light. "Rise and shine. Slackers," he called, his voice cutting through the damp air. "We've got a waterfall to find today." Mia crawled out next, her camera slung around her neck. She rubbed sleep from her eyes, still rattled by last night's growls and whispers. "You sure about this? After whatever that was?" "It was just the woods messing with us," Alex said, brushing it off. But his grin was tighter than usual, his eyes darting to the tree line. Jake stumbled out, zipping up his hoodie. "Yeah, totally normal for a forest to growl like a damn chainsaw. You're buying us all beers when we get back." Sarah emerged last, her face pale and drawn, clutching a water bottle like it was the only thing keeping her grounded. "I didn't sleep. Those whispers, they didn't stop." Ben, already outside checking his gear, frowned at his compass. The needle spun lazily, refusing to settle. "This thing's useless out here. Magnetic interference or something." Alex clapped his hands. "Who needs a compass? We've got a trail and a plan. Let's move." They packed up, leaving the tents pitched, and headed deeper into Blackwood, aiming for the waterfall Jake had read about on some sketchy forum. The path was overgrown, roots snaking across the dirt like veins. But Alex led the charge, machete in hand, hacking at the underbrush. The air grew thicker, the metallic tang sharper, stinging their noses. Mia lagged behind, snapping pics of the towering pines and oaks. She paused, squinting at a cluster of trees ahead. Hey, didn't we pass those already? That crooked one with the split trunk? Jake glanced over. Nah, they all look the same out here. Forest deja vu. But Ben stopped, tapping his chin. She's right. That tree was on our left 20 minutes ago. Now it's ahead of us. Alex snorted. Trees don't move, genius. You're just turned around. A sharp snap echoed behind them, loud as a rifle shot. They spun, hearts pounding, but the trail was empty, just shadows swaying in the faint light. Sarah hugged herself, her voice trembling. Something's following us. It's probably a squirrel, Jake said, forcing a laugh. But his eyes stayed locked on the trees. They pressed on, the forest closing in tighter. The canopy blocked out most of the sky, casting everything in a dim greenish haze. Mia's camera clicked again, capturing a gnarled oak with bark that peeled back like burned skin. She froze, staring at the screen. In the corner of the shot, a shadow stretched, long and thin with jagged edges that didn't match any branch. Guys, she whispered, holding up the camera. Look at this. Alex leaned in, squinting. What am I looking at? That shadow. It's not attached to anything. Ben adjusted his glasses, peering closer. Could be a glitch or light bouncing weird. Before anyone could argue, a low hum rumbled through the ground, vibrating up their legs. Sarah yelped, grabbing Mia's arm. That's not a glitch. The hum grew, a guttural drone that buzzed in their skulls. Jake clapped his hands over his ears. What the hell is that? Then it stopped, replaced by whispers, soft at first, threading through the leaves. Stay here. Mine. The voices overlapped, raspy and broken, like a radio stuck between stations. Alex clenched his jaw. Okay, that's freaky, but we're not turning back now. Waterfall's gotta be close. They pushed forward, the whispers trailing them like ghosts. The trail twisted, narrowing until they had to walk single file. Mia kept her camera up, snapping shots, each flash revealing more. Claw marks gouged into a trunk, deep and fresh, oozing dark sap that smelled like rot. She gagged, stepping back. Something big did that, she said, her voice shaking. Jake kicked a rock. Yeah, like a bear with a grudge. Awesome. Sarah stopped dead, her eyes wide. I heard my name, right there in the whispers. Ben frowned. That's impossible. It's just wind or... Say that again when it's your name, she snapped, her voice cracking. A branch snapped overhead, showering them with dead leaves. They ducked, scanning the canopy, but nothing moved. The air turned colder, their breaths puffing out in faint clouds. Mia's next photo caught something worse. A pair of glowing red dots hovering between the trees, gone when the flash faded. Tell me you saw that, she said, shoving the camera at Alex. He stared at the screen, his bravado slipping. Okay, that's not normal. The hum returned, louder, shaking loose dirt from the roots. Sarah bolted forward, panic taking over. We need to get out of here. Sarah, wait, Alex yelled, but she was already sprinting down the trail. The group chased after her, branches whipping their faces, until she vanished around a bend. Her scream pierced the air, sharp and raw, then cut off. They found her a minute later, crumpled in a clearing, her scarf shredded and tangled in a thorn bush. She was shaking, eyes glassy, mumbling. It was right there, so tall, breathing on me. Alex knelt beside her. What you see? She pointed a trembling finger at the trees. Something huge. It didn't have a face. Ben scanned the area, flashlight in hand. But the beam caught only trunks and shadows. There's nothing here now. Maybe she tripped, freaked out. I didn't trip. Sarah shouted, tears streaking her face. It was real. Mia hugged her, glancing at Alex. We should head back. But when they turned to retrace their steps, the trail was gone. The trees had shifted, closing off the path like a wall. Jake swore, kicking at the dirt. This is some Blair Witch bullshit. Ben's compass spun faster, useless. This doesn't make sense. Trees don't just move. Tell that to the forest. Alex muttered, his voice tight. The whispers surged, louder now, forming jagged words. You can't leave. A shadow flickered at the edge of the clearing. Tall, hunched, gone in a blink. Mia's camera clicked, but the screen showed only static. Night fell fast, the gray sky swallowed by black. They stumbled back to camp, guided by Alex's shaky memory, only to find the tents surrounded by trees that hadn't been there before. Clearing was smaller, the creek closer, its water black as oil. Someone's screwing with us, Jake said, his laugh turning into a cough. This isn't possible. Ben knelt by the creek, dipping a finger in. He yanked it back, wincing. It's warm, like blood. Sarah whimpered, curling into a ball. Mia's flashlight swept the trees, catching a glint. Something metallic, half buried in the dirt. She dug it up. A rusted pocket knife, its blade etched with initials. JR, someone's been here, she said, holding it up. Alex grabbed it, turning it over. Could be decades old. Doesn't mean anything. A guttural growl rolled through the camp, low and wet, rattling their bones. The trees creaked, bending inward like they were listening. Sarah screamed, pointing at the creek. Ripples spread across the surface, but nothing had touched it. We're not alone, Mia whispered, her camera trembling in her hands. The growl came again, closer, from the shadows beyond the tents. Jake grabbed a stick, brandishing it like a club. Come on out, you bastard! A shape emerged. Not fully, just a silhouette against the trees. It was massive, its limbs impossibly long, swaying like branches in a storm. Red eyes flared, bright as embers, then winked out. The group froze, breaths held as the whispers turned into a chant. Mine, mine, mine. Alex stepped forward, machete raised. Stay back, whatever you are. The shape vanished, but the air grew heavy, pressing down on their chests. Mia's flashlight flickered, then died. In the darkness, something scraped against the tents. Slow, deliberate, like claws testing fabric. Ben whispered, we need to stick together. It's playing with us. Sarah sobbed, rocking back and forth. It knows my name. It knows me. The scraping stopped, replaced by a wet, sucking sound, like footsteps in mud. Mia swung her camera around, the flash popping wildly. Each burst lit up the camp. A claw mark on a tent, a tree trunk split open, sap dripping like blood. Then, in one frame, she caught it. A figure, skeletal and pale, crouched just beyond the light, its head tilted at an impossible angle. She dropped the camera, gasping. That's it. That's what she saw. Alex picked it up, staring at the screen. The figure was gone, but the image burned into his mind. Skin stretched tight over jagged bones. No face, just those red eyes. The forest went silent, the kind of quiet that screams in your ears. Then from the trees, a single whisper hissed out, clear as day. Run. They didn't. They couldn't. The trees tightened around them, roots curling up from the dirt like fingers, and the growl returned, closer, hungrier. Blackwood wasn't just a forest anymore. It was a trap, and they were the prey. The second night in Blackwood Forest crashed down like a guillotine, the darkness so thick it felt like ink pouring over the camp. The group huddled in their tents, flashlights flickering, breath fogging in the icy air. The whispers had stopped, but the silence was worse, heavy, suffocating, like the forest was holding its breath. Alex gripped his machete, eyes locked on the tent flap. "We stay awake," he said, his voice hoarse. "Whatever's out there, we're not letting it sneak up on us." Mia clutched her camera, the last photo of that skeletal thing still haunting her. "It's not sneaking, it's waiting." Jake paced the tiny space, stick in hand, his usual smirk gone. "Waiting for what? To eat us? This is insane." Sarah rocked back and forth, muttering under her breath, her sanity fraying. Ben sat cross-legged, flashlight trained on the tent wall, jumping at every creak. "We need a plan. We can't just sit here." A low growl rumbled outside, shaking the ground. The tents quivered, stakes pulling loose from the dirt. Sarah whimpered, clapping her hands over her ears. Before anyone could react, a deafening roar split the night. Deep, guttural, like a freight train crashing through bone. The tent flap ripped open, and there it was, the warden, 10 Fatale. Its skeletal frame loomed in the doorway. Pale skin stretched tight over jagged ribs that jutted out like spears. Its arms were too long, bending at wrong angles, ending in claws that glinted black as obsidian. Its head tilted, revealing a mouth of needle-sharp teeth, splitting into a grin that stretched ear to ear. Worst of all were its eyes, red, glowing like molten steel, boring into them. "Run!" Alex screamed, swinging his machete. The blade slashed across the warden's arm, sparking against its skin like metal on stone. It didn't flinch. Jake bolted first, shoving past Sarah and scrambling out the back of the tent. Mia grabbed Sarah's arm, dragging her up, while Ben fumbled for his pack. The warden lunged, its claws raking the air where Jake had been. The tent collapsed under its weight, fabric tearing like paper. They scattered into the night, the forest erupting around them. Trees twisted, trunks bending like rubber, blocking paths with walls of bark. Roots burst from the soil, snagging at their ankles. Mia's flashlight beamed down wildly, catching glimpses of the warden, its lanky form darting between trunks, faster than anything that big should be. Jake's scream cut through the chaos, high and panicked. "Help! It's got me!" They spun toward the sound, just in time to see him trip over a root, his stick flying from his hand. The warden loomed over him, claws raised. Alex charged, yelling, "Get off him!" But he was too late. The claws came down, slicing through Jake's chest with a wet crunch. Blood sprayed, dark and glistening, as his body went limp, impaled on a branch that shot up from the ground like a spear. His ribs splayed open, a grotesque bloom of bone and meat. Zara shrieked, collapsing to her knees. Mia yanked her up, tears streaming down her face. "Move, Sarah, move." The warden turned, its red eyes locking on them. That grin widened, teeth glinting in the moonlight. It didn't run. It glided, its limbs folding and unfolding like a spider's, closing the gap in seconds. Ben grabbed a rock, hurling it at the creature. It bounced off its skull with a dull thunk, useless. "Keep going," Alex shouted, shoving Mia and Sarah ahead. He swung the machete again, aiming for its legs, but the warden sidestepped, impossibly agile. Its claw lashed out, grazing his shoulder, tearing through his jacket and drawing blood. He grunted, stumbling back. The forest walked around them, trees snapping into new positions like trapdoors. A pine lurched forward, its branches coiling around Ben's legs. He yelled, clawing at the dirt as it dragged him backward. "No, no, no, no!" Mia lunged for him, but the warden was faster. It grabbed Ben by the neck, lifting him off the ground. His glasses fell, shattering on a root, and with a sickening snap, it twisted his spine. His body went ragdoll limp, head lolling at an unnatural angle, before it flung him into the dark. "Ben!" Sarah wailed, her voice raw. Mia pulled her along, sobbing, as Alex limped behind, blood soaking his sleeve. The warden's growl followed them, A wet, rolling sound that vibrated through the trees. They ran blind. The forest, a maze of shifting trunks and snapping branches. Mia's flashlight deed, plunging them into blackness broken only by the warden's glowing eyes. Two red beacons weaving through the chaos. A root snagged Sarah's foot, sending her sprawling. She clawed at the dirt, screaming, "Don't leave me!" Alex doubled back, hacking at the root with his machete. It bled sap, thick, black, stinking of rot, as it released her. "Get up now!" he barked, hauling her to her feet. The warden's claws swiped again, missing Alex by inches, shredding a tree instead. Bark exploded, showering them with splinters. Mia spotted a gap ahead, a rocky outcrop near the waterfall they'd been chasing. "There! We can hide!" They sprinted for it, the roar of water growing louder, drowning out the warden's growls. The cave behind the falls was narrow, its mouth slick with moss. They squeezed inside, pressing against the damp walls, panting. The air smelled of mold and something sour, like decay. "Is it gone?" Sarah whispered, her voice trembling. Alex peeked out, his machete dripping with sap and blood. The waterfall's mist obscured the forest, but those red eyes glowed through the haze, pacing just beyond the curtain of water. "It's still out there?" Mia hugged her knees, camera abandoned on the cave floor. "What is that thing?" Ben's absence hit them like a punch. Sarah rocked, muttering his name, while Alex wiped sweat from his brow, wincing at his torn shoulder. The cave walls pulsed faintly, a slow rhythm like a heartbeat. Mia frowned, pressing a hand to the stone. "Guys, this isn't normal. It's alive." A shadow loomed outside, the warden's silhouette stretching across the falls. Its claws scraped the rock, a high-pitched screech that set their teeth on edge. Sarah clapped her hands over her ears, sobbing. "Make it stop." Alex gripped his machete tighter. "We can't stay here. It'll get in." But before they could move, Sarah bolted upright, eyes wild. I can't do this!" She ran for the cave mouth, slipping on the wet stone. Mia lunged after her, but Sarah vanished into the mist, her scream echoing once before cutting off. "Sarah!" Mia yelled, her voice breaking. Alex pulled her back as the warden's growl rumbled closer, shaking the cave. The creature stepped through the falls, water streaming off its bony frame. Up close, it was worse. Its skin wasn't just pale, it was translucent, veins pulsing black beneath. Its jaw unhinged, letting out a hiss that smelled of death. Alex shoved Mia behind him, raising the machete. "Stay back, you freak!" He swung, but the warden caught the blade in its claws, snapping it like a twig. Mia grabbed a flare gun from Ben's dropped pack, hands shaking as she aimed. Eat this!" The flare shot out, a blazing streak of red, and hit the warden square in the chest. It roared, staggering back, flames licking its skin, but they fizzled out fast, leaving only scorch marks. The warden lunged, its claws slashing Alex's leg. He crumpled, blood pooling on the cave floor, yelling through gritted teeth. Mia screamed, dragging him deeper into the cave as the creature advanced, its eyes blazing brighter. The walls pulsed faster, slick with moisture that wasn't water. Dark, sticky like blood. "It's not just the monster," Mia gasped, realization hitting. "The forest. It's feeding it." The warden's claws scraped the ceiling, raining dust and stone. Alex clutched his leg, face pale. "Then we're screwed." A crack split the air, the cave entrance collapsing, rocks tumbling as the warden lunged again. Mia pulled Alex back, narrowly dodging its grasp. The creature's arm shot through the gap, clawing at the air, inches from her face. Its hiss turned into a laugh, low, wet, and raw. They were trapped, the warden clawing at the rubble, and Blackwood closing in. The cave trembled, roots breaking through the walls, curling toward them like hungry tendrils. This wasn't just a hunt, it was a slaughter, and they were running out of time. The cave behind the waterfall shook as the warden's claws scraped at the collapsed entrance, dust and pebbles raining down on Mia and Alex. The air was thick with the stench of rot and wet stone, the walls pulsing like a living thing. Alex slumped against a rock, clutching his bleeding leg, his face slick with sweat. "We're dead," he rasped, his voice barely above a whisper. "That thing's gonna claw its way in." Mia crouched beside him, her hands trembling as she pressed her jacket against the gash on his thigh. Blood soaked through the fabric, hot and sticky. "Shut up and hold still," she snapped, her voice cracking. "We're not dying here." The warden's hiss echoed through the rubble, low and guttural, vibrating in their chests. Its claws gouged the stone, sending sparks flying, but the pile held. For now. Mia's eyes darted around the cave, searching for anything to fight back with. The flare gun lay spent on the floor, its last shot a fading memory. Her camera sat nearby, lens cracked, a useless relic of their doomed trip. A root slithered through a crack in the wall, thin and black, curling toward Alex's leg like it could smell the blood. Mia stomped on it, grinding her heel until it snapped with a wet pop. "This place is alive," she said, her breath hitching. "It's not just that monster, it's the whole damn forest." Alex groaned, shifting his weight. "Then what's the point? We're stuck in its gut." The cave shuddered again, a deep groan rumbling from below. Mia's flashlight flickered back to life, its weak beam catching something wedged in the rock. A leather-bound journal, its edges rotting, pages yellowed and curling. She pried it free, hands shaking as she flipped it open. The ink was faded, smudged by damp, but the words were legible. "Property of Elias Carver, 1873. Alex, look at this," she said, holding it up. "Someone's been here before." He squinted, pain-etching lines into his face. "What's it say?" Mia scanned the pages, her voice trembling as she read aloud. "We came to Blackwood seeking timber, but found something else. The locals warned us, said the forest was cursed, guarded by a spirit they called the Warden. We laughed it off. Then the trees started moving." She flipped ahead, her stomach twisting. "It's not just a guardian. It's a prison. We made a deal. Blood for protection, but it twisted the pact. Now it takes us one by one, feeds on us." The warden's claws scraped louder, stone cracking under its grip. Mia kept reading, her voice rising. "The trees are its eyes. They shift to trap you, hold you for it. The last of us tried to burn it out, but the fire wouldn't take. It's in the roots, the soil, everywhere." She stopped, staring at the final line. "It sees through us. It becomes us." Alex swallowed hard. "Becomes us? What the hell does that mean?" Before Mia could answer, the cave floor shifted, a slab of rock tilting under their weight. She grabbed Alex's arm, pulling him back as it dropped away, revealing a jagged pit. Stagnant water glinted below, black and oily, littered with bones. Human, animal, too many to count. A skull bobbed on the surface, its jaw hanging loose, eye sockets staring up at them. "Jesus," Mia whispered, bile rising in her throat. "This is where it keeps them." The warden roared outside, the sound bouncing off the cave walls. A chunk of the entrance gave way, its claw thrusting through, swiping at the air. Mia dragged Alex deeper, away from the pit, her mind racing. "That journal," it said, "the forest feeds it. What if we're not just prey? What if it's turning us into something?" Alex's eyes widened, panic flaring. Like Sarah, she ran out there, and we didn't hear her die. The thought hung heavy, a knife twisting in Mia's gut. She shook her head, forcing it down. "We need to get out. There's gotta be another way." The cave stretched back, narrowing into a tunnel lined with roots that pulsed like veins. Mia's flashlight flickered again, casting shadows that danced like figures on the walls. She helped Alex limp forward, his weight dragging on her shoulder. The warden's growls faded slightly, muffled by the rubble, but the roots kept moving, brushing their legs like curious fingers. A faint hum buzzed through the tunnel, the same guttural drone I'd heard before. Mia's beam caught a carving on the wall, a crude sketch of the warden, its claws raised, surrounded by stick figure humans kneeling. Below it, words scratched in desperation. "Blood binds it! Blood binds it!" Mia muttered, piecing it together. That's what Carver meant. They gave it blood, and it took everything else. Alex coughed, blood flecking his lips. Great, so were dessert. The tunnel widened into a chamber, its ceiling dripping with moisture that wasn't water. Dark, viscous, pooling on the floor. In the center sat a pile of debris, rusted tools, shredded clothes, a broken lantern. Mia rifled through it, finding a flare, cracked but intact. "This might work," she said, tucking it into her pocket. A wet slap echoed behind them, footsteps slow and deliberate. Mia spun, flashlight trembling. The beam caught a shadow at the tunnel's mouth. Tall, hunched, red eyes glinting. The warden had found another way in. "Move!" she yelled, shoving Alex ahead. He stumbled, grunting as his leg buckled, but she kept him upright. The warden's claws scraped the walls, a screeching wail that clawed at their eardrums. Roots shot up, blocking their path, but Mia stomped through, snapping them underfoot. The chamber opened to a ledge overlooking the forest. The waterfalls roared, deafening below. The trees outside swayed, parting briefly to reveal a sliver of open road. Freedom, tantalizingly close. "They can make it!" Alex leaned on her, his breath ragged. "You go! I'm slowing you down." "No way," she snapped, tightening her grip. "We're both getting out." The warden's growl rolled up from the tunnel, closer now. Mia glanced back. Its silhouette filled the passage, eyes blazing, claws dragging sparks from the stone. She pulled Alex toward the ledge, the trees shifting again, threatening to close the gap. "Con, we're jumping! Con, we're jumping!" They staggered to the edge, the drop dizzying, 20 feet to the rocks below, the waterfall's mist soaking their faces. The warden burst into the chamber, its jaw unhinging with a sickening crack, letting out a roar that shook the cave. Mia lit the flare, its red glow hissing to life, and hurled it at the creature. It struck its chest, flames flaring, but the warden swatted it away, unfazed. "Go!" she screamed, shoving Alex toward the gap. He stumbled through, crashing onto the forest floor beyond the trees, rolling into the dirt. Mia turned to follow, but the warden's claw shot out, grazing her arm, tearing a gash that burned like fire. She yelled, diving forward as the trees snapped shut behind her. The warden's roar faded, cut off by the closing forest. But Mia's relief was short-lived. She crawled to Alex, who lay sprawled on the road, blood pooling beneath him. "Stay with me," she pleaded, shaking him. His eyes fluttered, unfocused. Headlights pierced the dawn, a truck rumbling toward them. Mia waved frantically, screaming, "Help! Over here!" The driver, a grizzled guy in a flannel shirt, slammed on the brakes, jumping out. "What the hell happened to you kids? Get us out!" Mia sobbed, helping him lift Alex into the cab. The truck peeled out, tires screeching, as Blackwood receded in the rearview mirror. But as they sped away, Mia glanced back and froze. At the tree line, a figure stood, Sarah, or what used to be Sarah. Her skin was pale, stretched tight, her eyes glowing red. That too wide grin split her face, and behind her, the warden loomed, its silhouette merging with hers in the fog. A whisper carried on the wind, faint but clear. "Mine, mine." Mia clutched Alex's hand, her heart pounding. They'd escaped, or so she thought. But deep down, she knew Blackwood wasn't done with them yet. The hospital room smelled of antiseptic and stale coffee, a sterile contrast to the rotting damp of Blackwood forest. Alex lay in the bed, hooked to an IV, his leg bandaged from ankle to thigh. The doctors had stitched him up, pumped him full of antibiotics, and called it a miracle he'd survived the blood loss. Mia sat beside him, her arm in a sling, staring at the cracked linoleum floor. Her camera was gone, left behind in the cave, and with it, the last proof of what they'd seen. The truck driver had dropped them at the ER, muttering about damn kids before peeling out, and now they were alone. The hum of fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. "You okay?" Alex croaked, his voice rough from the sedatives. Mia didn't look up. "No. You." He managed a weak laugh, wincing as it pulled at his stitches. "Been better. At least we're out." She nodded, but her gut twisted. Out of the forest, maybe, but not free. Not really. Not really. The image of Sarah at the tree line. Those glowing red eyes, that warped grin, clawed at her mind. She hadn't told Alex yet. Didn't know how. A cop had come by earlier, a stocky guy with a notepad and a skeptical frown. "Zoe, you're saying a monster chased you through the woods?" he'd ask, tapping his pen. Mia had stumbled through the story. Jake impaled, Ben's spine snapped, Sarah vanishing. But the words sounded crazy even to her. Alex had backed her up, his voice slurring from the pain meds, but the cop just shook his head. "We found your campsite. Tents were trashed, but no bodies. Probably a bear. You kids got lucky." "Lucky," Mia muttered now, the word bitter on her tongue. She'd wanted to scream at him. A bear doesn't move trees, doesn't whisper your name. But what was the point? No one would believe them. The hospital discharged Alex that afternoon, crutches clattering as they shuffled to Mia's car. The drive home was quiet, the radio off, the hum of the engine the only sound. Outside, the world felt wrong. Too bright, too normal. Mia kept glancing in the rearview mirror, half expecting red eyes in the back seat. Alex stared out the window, his face pale, lost in his own head. Back at her apartment, Mia helped him onto the couch, then sank into a chair, exhaustion crashing over her. "We need to figure this out," she said, rubbing her temples. "What happened back there? It's not over." Alex frowned, shifting his leg. "What do you mean?" "We got out. It's done. It's not." She leaned forward, voice low. "I saw Sarah. At the end, when we hit the road. She wasn't her anymore. Her eyes were like that thing's." He stared at her, the color draining from his face. "You're saying she's... what? Possessed?" "I don't know. But that journal, it becomes us. What if it's still coming for us?" A knock rattled the door, sharp and sudden. Mia jumped, her heart slamming against her ribs. She crept over, peering through the peephole. A delivery guy stood there, holding a package. She opened the door a crack, signing for it with shaky hands. The box was small, unmarked, heavier than it looked. "Who's it from?" Alex asked as she tore it open. No label. Inside was a USB drive, scratched and worn. Mia's stomach dropped. "This isn't good." She plugged it into her laptop, Alex leaning over her shoulder. A single video file popped up. No name, just a timestamp from 2 days ago. The day that escaped. She clicked play, and the screen flickered to life. Grainy footage showed Blackwood Forest at dusk, the camera shaky, held by someone breathing hard. A voice, Jake's, muttered, "This is nuts, man." The lens panned across the trees, catching their campsite untouched then. Laughter echoed. Sarah's, light and nervous. Then a growl rumbled, low and wet, and the camera swung toward the sound. Red eyes flared in the dark, and Jake's scream cut off as the feed went black. Mia's hands shook, tears welling up. "That's from our trip." "How'd this get here?" Alex gripped the couch, knuckles white. Someone found his phone. Or the video restarted on its own, the screen glitching. This time, It wasn't Jake's footage. The camera hovered over the wreckage of their camp. Tents shredded, the creek running red with blood. A figure stepped into frame. Sarah, her head cocked at an odd angle, skin pale and veined with black. Her voice hissed through the speakers, distorted. You left me. Mia slammed the laptop shut, her breath hitching. That's not possible. She's gone. Alex's phone buzzed on the table, the screen lighting up. A text from an unknown number. Look outside. They froze, eyes darting to the window. Mia crept over, pulling the curtain back. The street below was empty, street lights flickering in the dusk. But in the alley across the road, shadows shifted. Tall, thin, red eyes glinting before it melted into the dark. We need answers, Mia said, grabbing her keys. Library now. They drove to the city library, Alex hobbling on crutches as Mia dug through old records. She found a book buried in the archives, Legends of the Hollows, a crumbling tome from the E50s. A chapter on Blackwood caught her eye. The warden, a spirit bound by blood, claims intruders to guard its domain. Some say it's not alone. Sister forests stretch across the world, each with its own sentinel. Escape is rare. Survival is temporary. Mia, read aloud, her voice trembling. Those who leave carry its mark. It finds them, through dreams, through shadows, until they return, or become part of it. Alex rubbed his face. So it's not just Blackwood, it's a network. And we're tagged. That night, the nightmare started. Mia woke screaming, drenched in sweat, the warden's claws slashing through her dreams. Alex thrashed on the couch, muttering Sarah's name. The next morning, her phone buzzed with static, a garbled whisper leaking through. Mine. Mine. She threw it across the room, the screen cracking. Weeks passed, the city a blur of normalcy they couldn't trust. Mia scoured online forums. Nosleep, Creepypasta threads, finding whispers of similar forests. Hollow pines in Oregon, deedroot in Maine. Survivors posted frantic warnings. It follows you. It waits. One thread chilled her. A photo of a man, eyes glowing red, grinning in a mirror. The caption read, I escaped. Now I'm this. Alex's leg healed, but his eyes grew hollow, staring at nothing for hours. I hear her, he said one night. Voice flat. Sarah. She's calling me back. Mia grabbed his arm. Fight it. We're not going back. But the pull was stronger than either of them. One evening, Mia found a new video online, live streamed from Blackwood. A group of campers laughed, setting up tents, oblivious. The trees shifted subtly, unnoticed by them. Then the feed glitched, screams erupting as red eyes flared. The camera fell, rolling across the dirt, and stopped on a face. Alex. He stared blankly, unblinking, as the warden's claws closed around his throat. The stream cut to static. Mia bolted to the couch. He was gone. His crutches lay abandoned, the front door ajar. Panic clawed at her chest. No, no, no! She grabbed her keys, racing to Blackwood, the road blurring through tears. She reached the forest at dawn, the tree line silent and still. Alex stood at the edge, motionless, his back to her. Alex! She yelled, running toward him. He turned, and her blood ran cold. His eyes glowed red, his grin too wide, splitting his face like the warden's. Behind him, the trees parted, revealing Sarah, pale, veined, grinning. And Jake, his chest, a ruin of roots and bone, red eyes blazing. You left us, Alex said, his voice layered with a growl. Now you're ours. Mia stumbled back, the forest closing in, roots snaking toward her feet. She turned to run, but a whisper stopped her, her own voice echoing from the trees. Mine! The last thing she saw was Alex's hand reaching out, claws glinting where fingers used to be. Days later, a hiker found her car on the roadside, empty. Blackwood stood silent, A single oak creaking as its bark twisted into a new face. Mia's, frozen in a scream. A car engine hummed in the distance, tires crunching gravel. The forest waited, patient and hungry, for its next visitors.